like to welcome the audience and thanks you for attending. Viewers may watch TCAPS Board of Education meetings and committee meetings live or on demand at tcaps.net/board. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we had the review approval portion of the agenda. There was one oversight in executive committee that we normally would have had a superintendent evaluation, a quarterly superintendent evaluation. It was my intent to go back and add that to the August agenda, but I also understand that we don't want to get too far off track, so there may be a desire to add that to the agenda tonight. If so, then we can say either one is an option.
Yeah, I would say, so this is the second quarter and our first quarter was in April, so
Yeah,
it
we already
really
picked
should be
one.
June, July. So I think to keep it timely on track, on schedule for us, we should do it tonight, so. And I also wanna just give some grace to last week. The central office was closed, we didn't have an opportunity to, amend the agenda.
Yeah, it was,
So it's understandable. It was
And
limited.
I do know that there was a reach out last week and it was just, being July 4th week, it was difficult to get
Yeah.
Me as well.
So I'm happy to make a motion to amend the agenda to hold the superintendent quarterly evaluation.
Okay, can you include it as, you make that motion, can you include it as 10, or in section 11, we usually do 11, so it'd be in section 12, right?
Okay.
Yes,
As item number 12,
it would be item number 12,
after public comment number 2.
yeah. And just regardless, just for the record, it has been requested in closed session, so.
Okay.
I would also request, given the timeliness of the request, that it be in a closed session. I think that's fair.
Yeah. And I do apologize to board members for the oversight. And to John too. So, yep.
Do we need a second?
Yeah, could you wanna make,
Oh, you want me to make it again?
yeah, 'cause
Okay.
I thought you were talking about the motion,
Okay,
so.
all right. I would like to amend the agenda to add an item for the superintendent's quarterly review in closed session. This would be item number 12 on our agenda.
And I think we have to do, yeah, we would have to do a roll call vote to change the agenda, so, Stacey, please. Actually, we need a second, we don't on it, because it's not.
We don't
'cause
have a
haven't got-
second yet.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second that.
Trustee Ballinger,
Yes.
trustee Moonmore,
Yes.
trustee Peck,
Yes.
trustee Raymond,
Yes.
trustee Bird,
Yes.
and trustee Newman-Dale.
Yes, so the agenda is modified, and then do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All right, Josie, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to recognition, deferring to Dr. Van Wagner.
Okay, so tonight, I would like to publicly announce that we are fortunate to have the Michigan Association of Pupil Transportation Technician of the Year. And so, with us tonight also is Tyson Birch, our Director of Transportation, and Kevin Chocat, our Transportation Manager. I also believe is here in the back. But Steve Bridson is here with us tonight, and he is entering his 10th consecutive year as a school bus technician. Steve is a valuable member of our Traverse City Area Public Schools and a very well-respected technician. His knowledge is sought after by other school districts, and he has a great relationship with vendors. Steve has 14 ASE certifications, and as a TCAPS lead technician, he sets a good example for his team with organizational skills and attention to details. He's also a good sounding board for his supervisors. On top of his leadership in overseeing 90 school buses, he oversees 54 fleet vehicles, and maintains a regular bus route. Steve also goes above and beyond his duties, such as organizing a fundraiser to provide Christmas presents to students in need. Steve is a valuable member of the Traverse City Area Public Schools, and he just does a fabulous job for us. I've gotten to know him a little bit, and just even at Christmas time, you know, I remember a story with a student that really didn't have Christmas gifts, and he and his wife provided Christmas gifts for that student that's on his route. So Steve does a great job for us, and so I'd like the opportunity to have Steve come up and introduce him to the board. So Steve, if you'd come up, and his wife is also with him. Talk to us about that.
Whoops, this is the award they gave me it's all cut out of metal if you wanna check it out. It's pretty nice.
Very good.
And here I thought it was something you'd done.
We have this new.
Oh, we do? Okay. Well, we'd like to get a picture of Scott, if you wanna come over.
Yeah, it's nice. Oh, sorry. I was looking at the,
Better bring the award over.
Yeah, right.
That is pretty cool.
I'll be Vanna White here.
Oh, I can.
I didn't get to see it. but-
That should be in the picture.
Oh, that's cool. I know, that's really cool.
That's why she did Vanna.
You know?
Keep going. There we go.
oh, that's a good idea.
It's true. Thank you.
Give another round of applause.
All right, so, now how is the sound? I know we've had some sound issues, better.
Bad.
Can you at least hear most of it now? We are still making some adjustments on the acoustics so we don't get feedback online and everything. It is a work in progress, and as board members, we will try and speak as clearly as possible. So with that, we're moving on to public comment.
I think he has a question.
Am I being recognized here to make a slight comment? I honestly believe this nice guy here that just won that award, did anybody hear anything about him? No, impossible to hear you guys talking. I think I would recommend for tonight's meeting, I'm an amateur, self-proclaimed acoustic engineer here. There's stuff you can do to fix this.
Yep.
But for tonight, I would recommend you turn the system off and just turn up the volume of how you speak. The echo in here is absolutely, it's impossible to hear anything you're saying.
Okay,
Okay, good point.
thanks. I don't think we can turn it on.
Yeah, because we have the live feed video. So we'll talk loud as we can from that standpoint, but it's something we're working on trying to fix. It's only our second meeting here.
I can hardly hear what you're saying right now because of the echo.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
Can
turn
we,
it off, I'd
what if we
rather
turn the speakers off?
strain to hear
Turn it off,
anything
the speaker
than
back there.
not hear anything.
Check with Larry.
Back speaker.
Can we change the desks? I can hear them very plainly.
Yeah.
Can we-
Speak, no, because
That way we can hear
there's
you.
the
The
sensor for
connection
the.
into the,
Is that?
Yep.
Okay, is the echo off now at
It's
least?
off. Lots better.
Is that better?
Way better.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
So we will work at projecting ourselves. If we don't, I do apologize. So we will do that. But, so we'll practice here. The board has set aside this time for public comment, and individuals addressing the board shall have one opportunity to speak and shall be limited to 3 minutes. Individuals should not make personal attacks unrelated to actions affecting the school system. We strongly encourage common courtesy and constructive feedback, and detailed rules and procedures, including a complaint process, are outlined in board policy 0167.3. One clarifying is we do have a public hearing today. If you do, you can speak in the public comment, and specific to the sex ed public hearing, you can speak in that section separately. They are two separate. So with that, Stacy, can you introduce public comment?
Yes, the first speaker is Scott Richards.
Scott Richards, Green Lake Township. I'm here to talk about these books, Red, White, Royal Blue, Gender Queer, All Boys Aren't Blue. These books do not need to be in any library for the kids. These kids are coming from broken families mostly, and these books are gonna mess with their minds. These books, Gender Queer, All Boys Aren't Blue, I'd like to see you guys take these to Damascus, Syria, or Cairo, Egypt, or Mecca, and try to give these books away, and you'd know what would happen. Please look up the story of Jordan DeMay of Marquette, Michigan, who killed himself because of sexting. These books do not belong in kids' libraries. They're already broken and they're hurting. And you have no idea what kind of pain you might give them in the future. Thank you.
Next speaker is Scott Morey.
So good afternoon. Thank you all for this time to speak and to your service to our community. My name is Scott Morey and I'm the Assistant Director for Technology at Traverse Area District Library. And I'm here to share some factual information about the Tattle millage that is on the August 6th ballot. Tattle is a unique library system that has 6 locations under one card. A main library on Woodmere Avenue in Traverse City, and 2 branches in East Bay and Kingsley, and 3 member libraries, one in Old Mission Peninsula, one in Interlochen, and one in Fifth Lake. So a total of 6 library locations that each meet the unique needs of their communities. As a whole, we circulate over 1.3 million items a year and see about 420,000 library visits. Of course, it doesn't include the many people who exclusively use our digital services to access ebooks, research databases, and more. These statistics and many others can be found on our website, www.tattle.org/millage. So rather than spending your time sharing more impressive statistics, I'm going to instead share some concrete examples about how the library district serves the community. Story time at our East Bay branch with Mr. Matt has become so popular, we've added another extra day to welcome even more families. Our branch at Kingsley hosts bi-weekly Dungeons and Dragons campaigns for teens. Fife Lake Public Library partners with Forest Area Schools to provide library services to kids both at their library location and also in both of their schools. Many students in this community would not have access to any library services without this partnership. Speaking of school partnerships, our relationship with TCAPS has allowed us to distribute over 13,000 new library cards since the program launched in 2021. I had the opportunity to witness one of these new patrons, a kindergartner, proudly bring his new library card to our youth service desks and request a book about, and I quote, what snails like to eat. We also help students maintain their reading levels over the summer months via our summer reading challenges and events. This year, participants have already logged over 1,286,000 minutes of reading, and we still have 2 weeks to go before the program concludes. And one last thing that we're really proud of is Tattle has partnered with Feed America to bring free lunches to children 18 and under and people with disabilities 26 and under. We offer these meals Monday through Friday at the main bench in Traverse City, East Bay, and in Kingsley. We do all this on a 264% return on the investment in the value received in the millage. We proudly do this for our patrons, your student and teachers, and the entire community. Thank you.
The next speaker is Bill Wiesner.
Wiesner. That's Bill Wiesner. And Bill Wiesner, Traverse City. This is a great new opportunity. It's called Natural Family Month. Which is that month? It's from Mother's Day to Father's Day. It's a national organization. You can find it at www.naturalfamilystrong.com. Actually, all 12 months are Natural Family Months, the best for the family. And I have this clapboard, front and back. this in the front, this on the back of me, and I went to the two Blue Angels things all the way up and down the beach, and at the art fair, and at the two parades, and handed out 1,200 of these so far, and I've passed around one to each of you, and I have one for everybody back there that I'm not supposed to speak to. But what it is, some of the things, oh yeah, you could read this online too. Right now, if you go to tcfamily.org, you'll find it. You can read this handout, see everything online. We talk about their core beliefs. The natural family is the cornerstone of all civilization. Institutions, I'm just reading the headlines here. Missions, values, and vision you can read. The natural family promise. I promise, I believe, I commit, I will do. And, oh, I'm on the back page here. The front page has, it shows the two options on the signs you can get. And by the way, I've got a map of Traverse City, and the central neighborhood has 70 plus of these signs, are the LGBTQ signs. And in all Traverse City, you won't find anything like the natural family strong, the foundation of America, celebrating our American tradition. So it's totally one-sided. And I want to talk too about what the library man, I know he's proud of his books, but I found 1,600 books if you look at 12 different topics at Tattle at the local city library, and they had 4 books on the other side. So 0.5% of their books are on the other option. That's a religious belief, promoting LGBTQ and sexual revolution, nothing on the other side. Natural Family Promise has 4 parts. I promise, I believe, I commit, I will do. Encourage you to read that. That's on the website, and it will tell what this is all about. And we have 20 seconds. I promise to support the restoration and concept of the natural family. I believe the natural family consists solely of one biologically born man and one biologically born woman or their adopted children. I commit myself to work to help others see this, and I will do everything within my power to encourage the growth of the natural family. I'm out of time. Please consider this. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Mike Mulcahy.
Hi there, my name is Mike Mulcahy, and I had a lot of siblings that went to school right here. I like your new digs, get the sound system fixed, and things will be really good. I went to kindergarten in the old Union Street School down the street here. So anyway, when we booted God out of the schools, I mean, right now, I believe it is unacceptable to have a Bible on your desk if you're a teacher in TCAPS. Am I correct or am I wrong? And you don't need to answer because you don't anyway. But when we booted God out of the schools, that left a vacuum. It was a big vacuum, and that vacuum is being filled by opportunists, all kinds of them, good ones, bad ones, and everything else. We see the Muslim, if you want to call it a religion, growing in the United States. This is a product of booting God out of the schools, I would argue. But also the homosexualist movement has taken advantage of this to fill that vacuum. Kids have a need to believe in something. And when we take God away from them, the parents, you know, we all like to believe that the parents should be the primary teachers of sex ed. And if we've got a high school where we're teaching the biological principles of sex, I don't think anybody's gonna have any problem with that. But if we inculcate one kind of religious values in our kids, and it's not Christianity, it has a very easy chance of being homosexuality. I mean, we all know that there's no genetic tie, but there are a lot of culture and natural, you know, upbringing ties that go into a kid having a gender dysphoria. So I'm opposed to it. We ought to, a couple of principles. Parents are the key teachers of their children when it comes to sex ed. And I know we got broken families all over the place, so there's gonna be a vacuum whether you guys don't participate in that or do. But I think as a taxpayer with 75 nephews, nieces, and grandkids, who many of which are in the TCAPS system, I, like this gentleman right here, do not want them to have access to stuff like the books that he named. That's it for me. I do want to make one last comment. Do I have any time left? 10 seconds, 15? I love the library we have here in town. This gentleman right here, I bet you is a contributor to the fact that I like it and I use it a lot. However, I went to the board meeting down there because they have down at the juvenile book return, it's got a TV set this high, got nice flowers and flowery stuff on it, and it says, Thursday night, 7:30 in the wintertime. It's dark out. Come to the Queer Tales Book Club. Am I wrong or am I right? I'm right. It says Queer Tales Book Club. And there's no supervision. And I advised them.
Thank you, sir. Your time is
got
up.
legal liability.
Your 3 minutes is up.
You got legal liability and the law.
Your 3 minutes is up. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes.
In California.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Chandra Fleece.
Hi, I'm Chandra Fless, the TCA president for our educators, and I'm just here to first say thank you for all that you do. We appreciate it, and also that we are in support of the bond that is coming, so we really hope that passes and helps our community. Thank you.
That's the end of public comment.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Moving on to the superintendent's report, defined to Dr. Van Wagner.
All right. Okay, well, legislative update. Spent 3 solid days in Lansing over the budget. And unfortunately, it turned out very different than we anticipated. Essentially, for the first time in well over a decade, we will not see an increase in the foundation at all. Yeah, and so with no increase in the foundation, we saw our 31 AA categorical for school safety and for mental health cut by 90%. What we got instead was a 5.75% reduction in our retirement payment that we make to the state. And then employees will actually, that have been in the system for about 15 or more years, will no longer have to pay 3% into the system for their future health care. That was part of the agreement, but I think all of us in the school ed community were expecting something to happen with the retirement and something with the foundation being increased, as well as school safety maintaining and mental health. So we were quite shocked sitting there, really the last 2 days of the budget process. And there were some priorities that I think the governor and some others had that were more in line with free community college and more access to preschool. And in my opinion, unfortunately, there wasn't enough money to do all that. And I think K-12 schools got the short end of the stick when it came to it. So for us, I can tell you it's about $500,000 more of a deficit for us compared to what we were expecting from the budget we passed. And we don't know it's over necessarily yet. There is some talk about them coming back sometime late summer, early fall in a supplemental. There was money that was left on the table. One of the things that did happen is economic development dollars got twisted into the conversation. And I think that originally a lot of people thought that the governor's priorities of the community college would have been funded under that what's called SOAR program. And because that did not happen, that there wasn't enough money to do all that, and so they said, well, we need to pass a budget to go and start campaigning, and then we'll come back in the fall and maybe see where we're at, and maybe there could be some shift. So there's a lot of demands from the School Boards Association and others that the legislators come back and do some things that could help improve it. But there's no indication yet that leadership's willing to do that. And so right now, we're kind of at a standstill of knowing where we are for sure with the budget that has passed. And we'll see where it lands from there. So any questions on that?
I had a question. Oh, good. Did you have one, Mr. President?
No.
Okay.
I was looking in despair
All
of
right.
every time I hear it.
Yeah. No, thank you for the overview, and I think all of us watched the news avidly 2 weeks ago. And it's something when the entire education lobby says it's a horrible budget.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who's happy with it, but in the K through 12 world. But I did want to ask, just in terms of real dollars and cents for us as opposed to percentages. So with the MIPSR's rate reduction, what does that mean for our district in particular in dollars? And
About,
yeah.
about a little over $2 million.
Okay. And then you mentioned the 90% reduction in mental health and safety and security, which is a real punch in the gut, because we've made a lot of efforts in
That
those
was $1 million
areas.
cut,
And what about transportation?
stayed.
Okay.
But nothing was added to the fund. And so next year, there's nothing moving forward with that we're going to have to advocate for dollars to be put into the transportation fund, to actually fund that categorical for the next year. One thing that was also done in that fund is that it was split into 8 quartiles versus 4 quartiles as it was previously in the year. I think that's gonna benefit us to get some more money, because we were kind of the middle of the road. And so I feel like we felt to the 3rd quartile. We were like right on the border of 2nd and 3rd, and we fell to the 3rd. So now maybe we're in the 4th, quartile. So I think it actually will probably help us, it being divided into the 8 sections versus the 4. We'll see. Hopefully that gets decided much earlier than it did last year. But no guarantees, where that lands. But we budgeted the same dollar amount we did get last year. I do think it'll be some more, but I don't think it'll be a ton more. But that is where that landed, and so we will have to advocate that for next year's budget from a 0 start point.
Right. And then my last question, because this is a big piece of that foundation allowance, so in the original budget we adopted a month ago, that was using the assumption that, there are always the 3 proposals, the House, the Senate, and the governor. The governor's, I think, was in the middle, so we.
240 if I remember right per
Exactly,
student.
so we were expecting a plus up of 240 per pupil.
Correct.
And it's actually flat at 0. So if I'm doing the math correctly, 8,700 students times $421, that's 3.66 million.
Right. So if
That's less than
Yep.
we had expected.
So after there was some more that was put into another categorical of at-risk, the 31A, that will help us to the tune of about, I wanna say 800,000 is what the fiscal analysis showed. So all said and done, if you take what we had in our budget, we're $500,000 short of what that number was that we passed. Based on preliminary numbers, that's what Wes right now, last that we talked, has come up with, is based on where we think that would land in the neighborhood of 500,000.
Okay. So some more tough conversations ahead.
Yeah, or maybe some funding conversations from the state ahead yet. I can't fathom that the Democrats are gonna walk in to the election going, we did not increase the foundation and we cut 90% of mental health and school security. I'm just shocked by, the statement. And so, I talked to some different Republican legislators and stuff like that, or people running, they're gonna lead with those headlines of those 2 things. We've prided ourselves in the north of 2x for years and years and years of increasing the foundation twice as much as the bottom. And for the first time in decades, to not put a dime into that is shocking.
Yes, and the last increase was because the Republicans in the legislature prior to that.
Right,
So you were still riding on increase off the Republicans.
yeah, so it's, so I don't know. I'm still shell shocked by it 2 weeks later, to be honest with you. I couldn't fathom, and none of us could. Many of our lobbyists and others said this is the worst budget they've seen in 20 years. With the money that was on the table that went to other things, from a priority standpoint, it was just shocking. So we'll see. We'll keep you informed as it goes. So.
Which I would just add that I think that's why we've spent the last several years building fund reserve.
Yeah, it's what you do for a rainy day, but it wasn't as rainy as this, as
Well,
the
the rain,
problem.
it's yet to rain and,
Yeah.
we're having to, but there's a lot of other districts that are
Oh.
in a really,
A real bad situation.
real bad situation.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, totally. And so, we're gonna be okay, but like I said, we all knew that this year we would have some, funds to soften that and figure out where everything landed and all that. I just, I was, if it sets a precedent for next year, that I'm very worried about. That's what it comes down to. So I'm not totally panicking yet. I wanna see what happens with the fall with supplemental, if it happens. But, if it doesn't happen after that, come to the new year, there's gonna be a little bit of panic sets in of conversation of having to really make some tough choices for next year.
well, and again, like, I have heard from just other districts that they're in so much worse shape that
Yeah.
it's a kind of a weird one where usually the decisions are made public policy wise and you don't really get to see it in action for a while, but this one's gonna be pretty instantaneous on a lot of districts.
It will be, it will be.
And an election, I mean, I also can't fathom, especially the mental health, I mean,
Yeah.
school security,
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
Well, thoughts and prayers and pressure on Lansing.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. So some district highlights for you. So our Sunshine Bus Summer Food Service. If you happen to see the parade, either of the parades, we had the Sunshine Bus all decked out in both of the parades, and that was fun. Appreciate Holly would come, and Josie was able to come for a little bit as well, so we were able to walk with the bus and show the community that. So again, the TCAPS Sunshine Bus is rolling through the district, providing free food that's provided by the Father Fred Foundation and basic needs provided by the TCAPS Student Support Network. You can look for the TCAPS school bus picking stops at various locations 3 times a week through August 31st. The bus provides food and basic needs for all children 18 and under. Routes and details and information is available on our district website. So if you go to tcaps.net, you can find the Sunshine Bus fairly easy, and the information on locations and stops it's all there. So, and then we will have, just as a reminder, July 22nd, we have our study session for middle school student achievement that we will have. And then I do have something on my end. I do have a conflict, and doesn't need to be decided today, but I just kind of want to throw it out there. October the 14th, we have our board meeting, and I have a personal conflict. In 4 years, I've never asked the board to move a meeting, but this is one that I kind of really need to, if at all possible. And so we had on the books a possible study session date of October. We ended up choosing the different month for the high school team to come in. And so we could do it that date that we had held, the 28th. There is a Monday between there that it could be done as well. So I'm just gonna ask you to look at your calendars and communicate with Scott and see if that might be a possibility. It would help me out a ton to be able to do so, but I just kinda wanna give a heads up now and see if that might be a possibility and for us to change.
Yeah, so I'm happy to accommodate, but so that we don't have to change the study session, is there any time the week of October 7th or October 14th, other than the first?
Well, we don't have a study session for that date, what I'm saying.
We have one on the
28th.
28th. The 28th of October, we have a
We
study
do.
session.
Just hasn't been determined what, but
Yeah,
it's still
fine.
one.
Okay, well, that was
There
the
is-
question, then
there
if
is
we were
still
gonna
one posted.
continue that from that standpoint.
I think there is
Yep.
still interest to do that, but I think the 21st, regardless of that, I think the 21st.
Yeah.
Uh,
The week of the 7th, or is there?
I'm good with either, that was the one day. We could do it earlier or later, the first week or the third week.
Okay,
We would probably just push, we'd only have 1 week on the packet if we did it the week one before.
that was my only thing.
But we're okay if you're okay, and pulling that off, but just,
So I'm okay with, and to be honest, it's actually easier if we do it now, so we don't have
Yeah, I
to,
agree.
figure out now
I agree.
where we can actually have a conversation
I'm
with us
good
all.
with the 7th through the 21st.
I'm actually good with either, which is
I
rare
like
for me
the
to have.
21st better, actually, because it's after the board meeting, and I don't know if you're gonna have another evaluation session coming up someplace in there.
21st?
Yeah, that'd be about that time. 21st would be fine anyway, that gives it 2 weeks for package, or 3 weeks.
it'll just be rather quickly that we have committee meetings come up for the next month and all that, but that's fine.
Yeah.
the 20,
we'll be-
Yep, okay, so we will,
14th, we're moving it to the 21st.
yes.
Okay.
No,
we'll
the
have it-
14th is still the board meeting.
No,
No.
That's what
We're going to do
moving.
the 21st as the board meeting, the study session, the
the
28th.
study session is on the 28th.
Okay, and so just, okay. I was-
So we're gonna
Leave it
push
at
the
one.
regular board meeting back a week and keep
Okay.
the study session, which is yet to be determined.
And for
on what the
anybody
board wants from
who's planning to go to the Michigan Association of School Boards Annual Leadership Conference in Lansing, that is later that week, Thursday, starting Thursday, October 24th.
Just a whole week.
So just dedicate the whole week to TCAPS. Stacy's already moved the appointment.
Alright. There's no motion or approval that needs to, but it's easier to do
Close it
that
off Indigenous Peoples' Day.
on the 21st.
Is it 21st?
Look at that.
Yeah, I'm good, I'm good.
Oh, it was
Was the 14th to the 21st.
No, yeah, yeah,
Okay, so 21st will be the board meeting, 28th will be the study session.
yes.
You got it.
Thank you. And then that is, I have tenure that I need to pass to Connie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my honor to acknowledge, we have several staff members who have completed the statutory probationary period to get the status of tenured with TCAPS. We have Kristen Welchoff, Emily Agley, Ashley Avery, Matthew Gorman, Brittany Gregory, Hannah Heights, Elizabeth Lautner, Andrew Schaefer, Thomas Vieira, and Sarah Wood. So we congratulate them on that achievement.
Okay, that's it.
Alright, any other questions on any of the items in the superintendent report?
Just wanna say, Superintendent Van Wagner, thank you for going down to Lansing, spending several days in a row and very late nights. I know you were up until 5 AM on the last night, so we really appreciate your efforts.
I wish the outcome would have been better, but we tried.
It's not all on you.
I know.
Still made it back for the
I don't think it's
executive
on
committee
you at
meeting.
all.
And he's nicely pink from walking in 2 parades.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
thank you to the two of you for representing PCAS for the board.
yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, moving on to board committee reports, curriculum committee, June 25th, reporting out by trustee Moonwell.
Yes, so we had our curriculum committee meeting, June 25th, at 8:30 here in this, room. We, went into our learning series, but I'm actually gonna, that's on our agenda. It was moved to discussion, so we'll wait to, go through that update, regarding, TC High revisioning sessions and the Compass Learning Center. From there, we moved into our procedural items. The draft meeting minutes remain as posted. There were no updates to the TCAPS 23-24 district course catalog. The next item was an AP World History update request. So we actually passed this curriculum update on 4/8, on April 8th. It was under the consent calendar. However, there's a couple of things that took place. More kids actually enrolled in this course, as well as the teachers wanted more textbooks versus digital. So we are asking, and it was over the original contingency, so we're asking to approve $5,085.30, and that is, I believe, on our consent calendar today. So again, we already approved the curriculum, it's just a little change there. There were 2 field trip requests. The first field trip, Traverse City West Senior High School's first robotics trip to the Indiana Robotics Invitational in Indianapolis, which is July 11th through the 13th. I actually talked to one of our coach leaders and said that the Indiana Robotics is actually more prestigious than making it to the Worlds. So I thought I would bring that to everyone's attention. And the second field trip request was for Traverse City Central High School's Art and Archaeology, archaeological trip to Italy, June 12th through June 22nd. So both of these are on the consent calendar for tonight's approval. We then had some informational items. The first item was the sex ed curriculum presentation. Mr. Dan McGee will go over that in depth tonight, so I won't go through that. That'll be a part of the public hearing. And then lastly were our celebrations and successes. So Kirsten Wooer shared the following celebrations. The 4th annual Amazing Shake at Traverse Heights. This was, they invited community members into Traverse Heights where they taught the kids how to greet people, how to interview, how to interact with adults. So that was a fun celebration. Lots of year-end celebrations were sent in from around the district. A lot of wave-offs, last day of school, and picnics and end-of-the-year celebrations. And then again, the TCAPS Sunshine Bus and support statistics from week 1. Usage of the supports offered by the Sunshine Bus have increased significantly since last summer. So again, the Sunshine Bus visits those 8 locations Dr. Van Wagner talked about. Those times and locations are posted online. So again, and that was it. We adjourned at 9:43. The next curriculum meeting will be Tuesday, July 30th at 8:30.
I guess it's straight onto the executive committee, reporting out from June 27th. Outside of procedural items and items already covered. Staffing update that the candidate pool is looking promising so far. We do still have some critical shortage areas, and there is a sign-on of referral bonus for those positions. And there is some open interviews from coming up, I think. Is that tomorrow? It's
July 8th.
okay, so it's July 11th is the open interviews from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Policy update, just again a reminder, I know it's a big task, but going through the policies, getting any questions to Connie, and trying to get through any of the low-hanging fruit so we can focus on the bigger issues coming up
I
later in the
finished
year.
my last meeting with Connie today on the 3S series.
Guessing you're ahead of most of us, so, moving on to communications, we heard a bond update. Obviously, as a board, we are not advocating for any passing of the bond, but we are allowed to provide factual information. And individually, you guys and myself are welcome to say whatever we want as long as we're not representing the board. The net that we did receive in the marketing and communications, so it's unfortunate Ginger is not here, but the marketing and communications department received the NSPRA Golden Achievement Award for the TCAPS branding and communications toolkit, which is launching or fully integrated at the start of the next school year. And then we heard about an upcoming kindergarten dental requirement, and just some of the challenges and adjustments that we're going to have with that, with every incoming elementary child having to have a screening as well. So that could change things, and there was a lot of effort to accommodate that and make sure that we can start school year positively and on time.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Is that gonna be done in-house, or are these gonna be referred out?
Referred out, but what we will do is we will work with our local health partners. Some of them have, there's a free clinic that is a Smiles
Exactly,
Clinic,
that's-
as well as there's also a, lack of a better term, a van or a bus that goes around and also offers those services. But we don't have a dentist on staff, shockingly.
Well,
And
no.
so they will be, you know, we will ask for those folks that have those resources of external organizations to refer them and sometimes make them available maybe at a school location a day or two a week or something, you know, or the health clinic that Northwest Michigan
Sort
Health
of like-
Services provides.
We did that when I was a kid.
Yep.
Yeah, and then fluoride treatments were
Oh, yeah.
part of that,
Yeah.
and that was public school.
Yeah, so it's a new requirement by state law that every kindergartner coming in has to have that screening, just like hearing, just like, you know, so this is a state mandated, but
And
through the
then
legislature.
scoliosis, do we do scoliosis screenings?
No, we're not required to do that. We're required to do hearing, vision, and now dental.
And so that was the the last communication update. And the next board executive committee meeting is Thursday, August 1st at 4 p.m. Moving on to health and well-being, reporting out by trustee Moomore.
So, we've talked a lot about, reporting out on what the Health and Wellbeing Committee has done in the past 3 years. And so, you know, unfortunately with the state news of reduction in mental health and school safety by over 90%, it's kind of sad to look back and look at all the accomplishments that the Health and Wellbeing Committee has done. So I thought that we added it to the agenda to kind of review everything that's been done. So bear with me, there's a lot of really great things. So I just wanted to give that update. So again, as you know, we had we were awarded a Systems Change Accelerator grant, a 3-year grant from Rotary Charities. So the Health and Wellbeing Committee was created. The purpose, the vision and mission statement, in collaboration with the district's behavioral and emotional support team, climate and culture team, physical activity team, nutrition team, and 18 building teams, TCAPS Reimagined Health and Wellbeing Team is impacting and improving community mental health, well-being, and school connectedness in alignment with the district's strategic plan by promoting and sustaining practices of support within each school building, championing health like lifelong habits for students and staff. So the teams were created. Again, those teams are the district team, the BEST team, which is behavioral and emotional support team, the climate and culture team, the nutrition team, the physical activity team, and then the 18 building teams. They're at all the schools as well as Boardman and Sabin. A new district wellness coordinator was hired. Ty Schmidt was hired for this position. The Board of Education approved a new strategic plan with health and well-being at the forefront of several focus areas. And again, if y'all remember going through that process with our community and our teachers and really how mental health and well-being all stacked up on that strategic plan. Formed the behavior and emotional support team, or the BEST team, to focus on the specific needs and planning in the development, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of PK through 12 behavior and emotional support specific initiatives. There were 3 work groups: mental health supports, prevention of bullying and harassment, and supporting challenging behavior. A note for the 2024 school year: the BEST team will form a new team celebrating diversity to help coordinate the district's efforts and increase and promote inclusivity. The climate and culture team formed. This was to create a shared vision and related action steps for sustainable positive culture and climate throughout the district in alignment with the strategic plan. The physical activity team formed to align the district's health and physical education curriculum and planning with TCAPS strategic plan. The nutrition team was formed, a sub-team of the district health and well-being team that aims to align the district's food service and nutrition curriculum and planning with TCAPS strategic plan. The health and well-being district team was reactivated. Also reactivated 18 health and well-being teams in every school in the district. This includes Sabin and Boardman too. TCAPS hosted Jeff Olson at West Senior High School for a community screening of Do It for Daniel during Mental Health Awareness Month. This was in 2021. Jeff Olson returns and screens Do It for Daniel at Central High School as well as West Senior High for juniors doing Suicide Awareness Month in 2021. We were awarded a $45,000 Emerging Needs Grant from Rotary Charities to build sanctuaries or quiet spaces and pilot the University of Michigan's peer-to-peer mental health program at both Central and West during the 22-23 school year. Central High School Health and Wellbeing Team launches Trojans Unite, a student peer-to-peer mental health group. We were awarded a $50,000 grant from Blue Cross Blue Shield in partnership with Benzie Leelanau District Health Department and the NMCHR's Community Connections to pilot community health worker at Traverse Heights. This is, the acronym stands for Northern Michigan Community Health Innovation Region Partnership of Health and Community Providers. TCAPS developed a proposal process to help get the required approval for ideas to improve health and well-being of students and staff. With the Northern Michigan, Northwest Michigan Health Services Group, the Student Health Center at West Middle School opens. New therapy, non-service animal policy was approved. A new director of whole child systems was hired, that was Misty Warner. The Trails program was implemented at Central West, West Middle School, and East Middle School. Trails stands for Transforming Research into Action to Improve the Lives of Students. This is a clinical training for school professionals through the University of Michigan. School social workers employed in every building. Grow Our Own program implemented for school social workers by HR. This is where we encourage those with different degrees to apply and continue to work for TCAPS. GTCHD E3, so this is Grand Traverse County Health Department, E3 providers at Central as well as West. Northwest Michigan Health Services, E3 provider at East Middle School, starting in 24-25. Trojan Relationship Mapping Program implemented at Central High School. Drafting screening process for students to transitioning to high school and middle school. New provider release of information agreement was launched. The Lunch Buddies mentorship program was piloted at Traverse Heights as well as Central Grade School, and then was scaled to all K-5 buildings and both middle schools, which are called midday mentors. There's well over 100 volunteers in this program. The new cell phone policy was approved. New cyber safety program series launched with Michigan State Police. The Montessori Health and Wellbeing teams receives a Healthy Communities grant for healthy celebrations and snacks. Meeting of the Minds group was established with a focus on developing and implementing structures and systems of support to increase mental and emotional health and social well-being in collaboration with now over 40 community partners. Westwood's Wellbeing Team receives a grant to build a 30-foot hoop house. SEL, Second Step and Positivity Program, or project curriculum at elementary and middle school buildings. New policy providing providers providing mental health care in schools. East Middle School Wellbeing Teams launches student lounge. West Middle School Wellbeing Teams launches a library lounge. West Senior High hosts an annual mental health summit. TCAPS organized a Walk to School Day, a district-wide celebration of National Walk to School Day. TCAPS organized a Bike to School Day, same thing, Bike to School. Celebrated World Health District-wide by encouraging staff to commit to 1 hour of physical activity. Coordination of care team draft a memorandum of understanding. I'm almost done. You guys good? I think this is important.
Yeah, you're doing
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Is on the list.
Yeah. Connected staff with local healthcare professionals to help teach health curriculum. Celebrated National Drinking Water Week district-wide. Partnered with Yen Yoga to offer free monthly yoga classes for staff. Free breakfast and lunch for all TCAPS, food and nutrition services 23-24. Grow It, Try It, Like It for pre-K and PE, not for K2, 4, 5 expands. That was like the fun with veggies and fruits. And SNAP Ed funding from Blair and Traverse Heights, who have had the programming for 17 years. Also was moved to Cortade, Central Grade, and Silver Lake. Father Fred partnership at Blair, Healthy Meals for preschool students, Food for Families program. New middle school MHSAA athletic initiatives hired a West Middle School athletic coordinator, launched the new monthly district health and wellbeing newsletter, the Trojans, Titans Thrive, a midday mentorship program similar to Lunch Buddies, launches at East and West Middle in the winter of 24, develop standardized procedure for taste tests in elementary cafeterias, audited of health class, LEAP athletics, and strength and conditioning courses, participation by a physical activity team, healthy all-staff gatherings like the Montessori team's Hike at the Commons, increased cafeteria seat time, a best practice to increase eating during lunch by the nutrition teams thanks to removing lunch cards due to universal lunches. audited practice of the recess, before lunch policy by the nutrition team, audited school pantries by the nutrition team, North Ed farm to school programs at Cortade, new suicide risk review draft, new parenting classes with Western Michigan University, faster assessments with Western Michigan University, climate and culture listening tour with Digital Promise regarding educational equity, mental health ranked high, all staff district team for Smart Commute Week, TCAPS runs, which was a Bayshore profile, TCAPS Thunderbolts was an all-district Smart Commute Week, health and well-being featured in the spring 2024 Navigator newsletter, and then just other district efforts addressing health and well-being of students and staff. The Student Support Network recognizes to better meet students' basic needs. The Sunshine Bus provides access to free food and basic needs during the summer for all children via a weekly schedule of routes. School resource officers hired at Central, West, and West Middle School. Formed a superintendent student advisory council, a major focus on belonging, mental health, and safety. New safety and security coordinator hired. Launched school success liaison program with NMCAA, 4 buildings in 23-24. New playgrounds installed at Long Lake and Traverse Heights. And then, of course, the safety and security updates in all of our TCAPS buildings. So I know that was a very lengthy list. Thank you for being patient, but I think all of that is just such good work, and yeah, just good to recognize all the work of that committee and those of us that have served and have volunteered, and it's just a lot of work has been done, so, yeah.
That's really head spinning, and hats off to all of you who've been involved in that 3-year grant. Yeah, just the district wellness coordinator pulling all that off is nothing short of amazing. I do have a question. The obvious question is, how will this work continue? Do we know who will execute it going forward, where the money will come from?
We will pick up what we can, but I can tell you right now, a considerable amount of it will have to discontinue.
Is there possibility for streamlining, deduplicating some of these efforts, since they're?
We have a lot of people taxed already with those roles. I don't see. That's why we did it in the first place, to write the grant. We always knew that if the money wasn't there and if the budget wasn't increased to support it, we couldn't. And the worst outcome possible has happened. So honestly, we're gonna look at, Misty already has her plate full with many of the things that we have, and there's just a reality. You need people to organize and collaborate all those people together and do that, and I just unfortunately right now see a lot of it falling by the wayside, unfortunately.
At the building level, where you have lunch buddies, for example, are those building principals and the core of volunteers?
Haven't had the chance to have that conversation yet, of what their capacity is going to be to do so. But I worry they already have their plate full. That's why we brought Ty in to help spearhead and lead that in that element. You just can't ask people to keep doing more. And so, we're going to continue to reach out for resources. We're already still writing grants, doing some of that to see if we can be able to find a different way to do that. But as of right now, we do not have that.
Can I say something?
Oh, go ahead.
So what we did do, cause we knew this was coming, is we had Ty create playbooks for each of the things that we did in health and well-being. So we have like the steps that it takes and the processes that need to occur in order for them to continue. So that will be helpful in some of the things that we are able to continue with. So definitely not lost, lots of systems in place already, but it's a lot of work to maintain something like that too.
Yeah, so like with the Lunch Buddies program, and Trustee Mumar and I, both went to different schools to volunteer for that. I mean, the district wellness coordinator wasn't on site at every single school. So was there a point person in every building with that core of volunteers that can keep that going? And we have pretty good confidence, because from my standpoint, I just signed into Central Grade School and then I went out in the playground. And that was it. We knew what we were doing after the first session. I assume it was the same for you, Blair. So I just wondered if that's something that can be sustained.
We'll see. I mean, somebody has to have those people get volunteer screened, all those setups and things. As a board member, you already had that long ago, but when new people and stuff come in.
They still screen me again.
Yeah, so, you know, we're just gonna have to have a conversation and see where it lands, but I also, you know, can't put people that already text, you know, with their current role to have to try and stack on and do that much more. When we recognize why we had somebody doing that in the first place, and, you know, with diminished resources, these are tough decisions we'll have to make. There's things that we would really like to do and we know are good for kids, we're not going to be able to do anymore. And, you know, we'll look at every resource possible, we're gonna continue to scratch and claw for all those things, but lack of that, we're going to have to make some of those tough choices. It is tough.
Such good work and really has such an impact
It
on
does.
kids, it's really hard to,
I know. I don't take any pride in making any of those statements, trust me.
no, I know,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's,
I'm thrilled to see that all these volunteers from the community step up. That was considerable work, I mean,
You know, one of the conversations is I'm interested, you know, we've talked a little bit about our partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters, is there any capacity for them to continue to help, you know, maybe do like something like that? Don't know, like I said, it's just gonna take us some time to unpack that, and we're hoping still by the grace of God, somebody shows up and somehow the grant that allows us to keep going, but, you know, we don't wanna dismantle it until we're just
right.
for sure we're at that point, and kinda feel like we're at least a month still premature in that aspect, so.
And Ms. Godek, I know you would have looked into this already, but for the record, Grand Traverse Regional Community Foundation, did they have a grant possibility? Because I know mental health is on their dashboard.
We have been to them for different grants, but this one was a Rotary grant that we received because our goal was to be sustainable, right? So we couldn't have a grant for 1 year and be done. So this was a 3-year opportunity for us to support, I mean, and we got a lot done in 3 years, so.
It's, like I said, just so unfortunate that the state funding didn't have happened there for us to make it permanent.
right, your representatives, legislators,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay.
But we are feeling out, I do, the session I just signed up for today with Dave and Megabir and Steve Wade and folks, and just see, at least put it out there.
Yeah.
You know, and then we're gonna at least put it all out there, and, you know, and if we don't get it, so be it, but it's not gonna be a lack of trying.
What was the grant amount?
Grand Traverse Regional
No,
Community
but what was
Foundation?
the Rotary grant?
It was a,
Systems change.
systems change, it's a $150,000 grant, that you get 50,000 each year.
Okay.
So that's what we've been able to do that with over the last 3 years. Ty was contracted and did that work in that, as the leader of that grant. So.
Alright. Well, thanks for the update, and hopefully we can continue some of its good work. So that's the last, board office hours, we will delay the report out by trustee Humphries to the next meeting, and she was unable to attend today. The next board office hours is July 25th from 6 to 7 in the upper floor in Horizon Books, and attending this month is trustee Raymond. So,
And then, Finance and Operations Committee didn't meet this month, we just didn't have agenda items to justify meeting, but we are meeting again on August 1st at 8:15, so.
alright. Moving out of our reports, onto consent. I know that there was multiple questions, but is there any other thing, any changes to this, or do I have a motion to approve as presented?
I move the Board of Education approve the consent calendar as presented without discussion.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Moving on to public hearing, sex education curriculum. As president of the board, I declare this public hearing open to the public. The additions and revisions of the sex education curriculum will be the subject of this hearing. Deferring to Dr. Van Wagner.
Okay, so reminder to the board, under state law, we are required to provide sex education in our school districts. It's always important to recognize under state law that students do have an opt-out. I know Dan can answer any questions you might have on that, that students and parents always have that option. So annually by state law, we have to have a public comment period as well as present any changes that are within that sexual education curriculum. Also, again, all those materials are available. They can call Stacy to have all of it. All of it is easily available online to be able to show what that is. that meet the state standards and requirements for sex education. And so, again, Dan will do a presentation for us. You may remember that, by state law, we have to have 2 months, that this has to be covered before the board is able to, pass that. And so he'll have the presentation today that was, again, reviewed by our curriculum committee, and then we will not act on it, however, until next month, with that, so. That is the way it works. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Dan to give you, the updates for the curriculum.
All right. So our sex ed curriculum committee, we had a big focus on our evaluation this year. I only have 3 items to look at. The first one is Generations Ahead presentation. And this presentation, this is a local community resource. And they've already been active at TC High. I found this during this whole process that we went through with them. My colleague, Deb Pritchard, who teaches the HPE class at West Senior High, had communication with somebody in that group, and she proposed, hey, will you guys look at this so we can have them come in during our unit at the high school. They're not teaching sex education. All they're doing is they're coming and they're explaining what resource they are for the community. So we can click through this first presentation. That's their mission, their history, what they do, who they serve, and what their whole purpose is to be a resource for families, young families.
For teens.
So, pardon me?
For teen families.
For teen families, yes. They
Boys-
have a
boys
teen
and girls.
pregnancy rate, and one of our evaluations is always to look at that. And if you can look at their data, that Grand Traverse County is fairly low in our region, and it has remained pretty low. They have a little bit of information on consequences of teen pregnancy. This is more statistical data on the impact that has. We talk about these same things in our teen pregnancy part of our unit already. So this is just kind of reinforces that. They talk a little bit more about what they're trying to do in a positive way, their programs, and they have a few pictures of different things they have for people. More statistics, and it's a short presentation. We figure we ran it through the sex ed, and there was a question on our board. Is this something we really have to approve because we're not teaching sex ed, but since they're coming in during our unit, we thought we better run this up the flagpole and cross our T's and dot our I's.
Have you presented it?
No, because we're going through the process. Everything we do has to be approved here, so we just want to make sure that even though they're not teaching,
But students,
since we're going to bring it in during the unit, we want to make it part of our unit.
but students word of mouth or through counselors know about this program?
That'd be a good question. I'm not a counselor.
It has been growing. They've done a good job, I think.
Yeah.
I know at TC High, they're well aware of it at TC High. And then Deb and I will add this to our presentation, or add them to come present this and this other resource. One of the things we do in our sex ed unit, and even in our other health ed units, is talk about community resources that are there for our students and everyone in our community. So that's just part of the education process, so this fits right in with that as another great resource.
So it's sex outcome support.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Mr. McGee, sorry, could you just go to the slide again with the numbers of babies born to teenagers?
Yeah.
Let's see those again, thank you.
That one?
It's a graph. The graph is the
I
graph.
think it was the one
Was
by
it the
year.
Yeah, it was the graph, wasn't
Oh, you wanna look
Early.
at the graph?
County.
Right
yeah.
there.
There you go.
there.
So that's the most recent.
2021.
Yeah,
And they're not necessarily TCAP students, but.
yeah, Grand Traverse
Big
County
county.
is
biggest student population, yeah.
multiple things, and then we have students in other counties too, so.
And this isn't necessarily breaking it down, I mean, not saying whether some of these teams might be products of assault or,
Yes,
okay,
yeah,
so it could be all
Just
of the above.
straightforward.
Thank you.
Pregnancies that ended in children is what this is.
It's 105 teen pregnancies with
73
73
births.
births.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, thank
Yeah.
you, good point.
Any other questions on that item?
Thank you.
Okay.
all right, the next part, we wanna add, this kind of fits into with our evaluation. We want to get feedback from kids, so one of the things, like any curriculum materials, we want to get feedback from kids. We basically just have 3 questions on here. This would be for our middle school and high school. The kids would take this anonymously. The data from this would go directly, this form would be duplicated, so each teacher would have their own form. So the teacher themselves would get that data, and then that data would come to whoever's in my position, which still currently me. I'm gonna be around for a little bit longer. We'll see. All right, but, so which grade, and then that's a required one, and then the other required one is something they learned. So we're getting feedback on something they learned that day. We typically ask that of kids, and they'll sometimes share to the class, sometimes they'll share to a partner or a group in the class, and then maybe share out. But this time we'll have documentation of something they learned. We can look at, okay, what are we trying to get them to learn? Are we getting those things across to kids? And then the last thing, what questions would you like that you were unable to ask in class today? So sometimes kids don't want to verbally ask questions, and this kind of takes the place of the old shoebox that people used to put questions in and do that. So again, this goes back to the teacher, myself. I will share it with the Sex Ed Advisory Board because they're looking at the data. We also decided that we would use this once in the unit, not daily. We call it a daily, but we're gonna use it one time because we don't wanna be overwhelmed with a massive amount of data that we maybe can't sort through and make, so.
And then would you be using this data to improve the curriculum for the next year?
Well, when we get to the evaluation part, you'll see where this comes in, because the next part, one of the things are we meeting students' needs? So that those 2 questions are, what are they learning? And what did they learn, and then what questions did they have for us as teachers? That gives us a little insight in, are we really meeting their needs if they've got these questions? Are there other things we should look at presenting? So, all
For
right.
that last question you had about allowing the kid to, ask a question
Yeah.
anonymously, would the teacher or advisor then have proactively tell the whole class? Because
Well, they
she
don't know who
doesn't-
the question's from.
Exactly, yeah.
So
So would
they-
they just tell everybody the same information to make sure that that kid got an answer?
They could answer the question or not. It's just like, I've had kids ask me questions that I'm not allowed to answer. And I advise them that they need to discuss that with their spiritual leader, their parents, and
Gotcha.
other adults in their lives. Because legally, I can't answer that question. But yes, you should pursue your, what you want to know. But, yeah.
Dan, do you consider, what did you find useless in the information that
We
was given?
didn't use that yet. We're presenting it to be able to use it this
Okay,
next year.
No, but
Oh.
when you are considering
Yeah.
your questionnaire, I mean, you say, what more do you want, but what did you find useless?
Oh,
see what I'm
that, a
saying?
question of what was useless?
Yeah,
We didn't ask, we're not asking the kids what's useless.
okay.
I've been teaching for a
Great,
long
you
time.
know, it
And
might be
I would
interesting to
have
see
kids tell
what
me
level you're
that doing
teaching to.
physical fitness is useless to them, and I'm still going to have my kids do that. So, everything we teach in our thing has gone through the process of the community committee and this Board of Education. So everything we have, we believe is very useful as the educators and the people that are highly qualified to do this.
Every once in a while you get a surprise.
Oh, I know. There's gonna be kids that, my kids, I mean, my class goes very smooth at the high school, and the kids are a little wild a little bit because I'm very comfortable teaching this. And I make the class comfortable. So it's not, first day is kind of awkward, and then after that, they're pretty good, pretty much on task and asking questions and participating, so yeah. And I'm sure Deb and the others do well too.
Just quick question, are the kids separated by gender, or do they
Not at
use
all.
it co-ed in high school?
Not at the high school or the
Okay,
middle school.
it's all co-ed?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. There used to be there was a day and time that we did breast cancer. We did a little disease thing, and we talked about that at the board curriculum. That's something maybe we need to talk more about diseases, but we once had school nurses, and then we had nurse from Munson that would come over, and we'd separate, and they teach about breast cancer and testicular cancer. Well, guys can get breast cancer too, so do we really want to separate that? And we provide resources for the kids and talk about the prevalence of those two cancers, and as well as skin cancer. So those are our three little mini disease thing that ties into the sex ed.
And I'll have a question on that later on,
Okay.
or now, whichever.
I'm good whenever you
Okay.
want to ask.
Do you do a section on gender fluidity?
Define gender fluidity.
When you're thinking whether you're a boy or a girl, regardless of what your biological, okay.
There's
Because
nothing,
I think it would be a good point.
there is an area at the high school level, when we talk about abstinence is for everyone. It doesn't matter what your choice, how you identify, et cetera. And then when we get into our contraception, that was approved last year that we talked about. If you have a penis, you can impregnate someone. If you have a vagina, you can get pregnant, regardless of how you identify.
Right.
Or if you're going through treatment or change or whatever, just be aware that that's still there and you need still to practice.
That's good.
Yes.
And you
That's
remain.
that's as close as we get to what you're talking about.
Okay, and the other thing I think is even if there is a sex change at some point, you remain at risk for the diseases associated
yes.
with that.
Oh,
I mean,
that's-
it's a
yes,
clear given.
yes. Yeah, and our
Yeah.
STIs and HIV units, that is,
Yeah, but I'm thinking long-term.
yeah.
Yeah. Very clear.
Yep. All right. So the Sex Ed Advisory Board, what we did this year, evaluation was our main focus. And what we decided to do is we broke into subcommittees. And our 5 subcommittees were to look at an evaluation of the program. We were particularly kind of overseeing the evaluation, but also looking for a tool and a method of maybe a better method of evaluating what we have. The consistency of documents is something that's been a question amongst the board members, and we're trying to do some work to get things more consistent at each level, the documentation. We've decided that's gonna happen as curriculum changes. We're gonna try to make sure everything aligns with consistency. And then we had the three levels, our elementary, our middle school, and high school. So each one of those subcommittees did work, presented back to the group as a whole, and that. In the past, as well as now, we looked at data, and we communicated with the state of Michigan and with Grand Traverse County. Grand Traverse County was actually lost a person in that position. I'm hoping it's filled by now, so that can help us in the future. But they were short, and they were also CC'd with the state of Michigan's reply to me. They did an analysis of the data, and they gave us that analysis. And the reply I got from the county is that, yes, we concur. That's the proper thing. We also adopted 4 questions from the sexual education curriculum evaluation tool that was developed by a group of comprehensive school health coordinators association. Most of them were located downstate. Our local is Marshall Collins, but we're losing him to a new career move. He's going to Kingsley. So whoever fills that role will be one of my go-to people to get things for our district from the ISD level. So the trends, the data points are there, but they also talk about, this is their observation, that our rates were higher for youth age 15, 19 than other people in ages, but rates are higher for Michigan than Grand Traverse County. So we're well below the state averages and things. They talk about the amount of chlamydia and that it's dropped. Gonorrhea, again, has dropped, and syphilis has increased. And this is information that we also talk about when we're teaching about disease to our students, that, doesn't matter which one, you're protecting yourself from all, but just so they understand trends as well. The STI trends in Grand Traverse County are mixed, and there was difficult to draw any conclusions because of the numbers are not very prevalent. The 4 questions that we took from that evaluation tool: are we meeting the students' needs? Are we meeting the community standards? Is the curriculum consistent with research and best practices? And is the curriculum consistent with state laws? So we answered those 4 questions. We felt that we need some changes in some possible grade levels. We went through a process of putting that out there without saying what the changes were in all cases. So we put that out there, we got some feedback, but we need to have our package together so they can actually look at what kind of changes they exactly want to make, to get feedback from staff at that level. So that'll be the work of our middle school, high school, and elementary subcommittees this next year, and they'll come back with proposed changes. We want to use current research and science, and there's 2 questions there: younger ages for exposure and activity. We looked at some research. We'll present that with our changes next year, the research that supports changes, and the younger ages of starting puberty. And we're continuing to do research over the summer. I've looked at some more lately. So are we meeting the community standards? Well, the Sex Ed Advisory Board is a representation of the community, as is the Board of Education. All our curriculum materials have been approved by both. So we feel that we are meeting this community standards, but at the same time, we have a community standards providing the best educational opportunities for kids. So that's where we go. Well, research is showing this, so maybe we aren't, we've done all the approvals and we will continue to do so, but we think there's some great adjustments that will happen. And there'll be a few changes coming. So, is it consistent with research and best practices, like the two questions I posed earlier? We are seeing research that says kids are exposed to sexual items and activity at younger ages, and they start puberty at a younger age. And that trend's been going on for a while. So we are gonna look at adjusting, we're gonna propose, we haven't approved our proposal, but we talked about it, moving those a grade earlier to get those kids some knowledge at that time. Are we consistent with state laws? We follow every state law there is. We cross our Ts and dot our Is. HIV and AIDS is taught at each building. Our teachers are certified. We teach abstinence. The safe delivery has to be taught. Consent has to be taught. We have 2 public meetings every year. So, any additional questions?
Mr. Riggi, I just had a question about the puberty, the 2 slides ago, your younger ages. You know, I've read this over the years. For girls, I think it's like 2 years younger than it was just a generation ago. For boys, is it the same?
The boys are 2, girls are, and you might even see more than 2 years.
Yeah, and then.
Some research, yes.
So what are we talking about, average age for boys and girls starting puberty?
I don't have it on the top of my head and I don't want to misspeak, so. But
That's
we,
fine.
like, for example, right now, we teach puberty education in 5th grade. And we're looking at, okay, maybe we should be teaching this in 4th grade. Some people are even talking about 3rd. I think we kind of, our later discussions, well, let's do 4th, and then if we think we need to readjust, fine. But again, we need to make sure we have our ducks in a row with our research, and then what exactly, what materials are we changing any materials as well?
And does the Michigan statute specify a grade level
No.
for that? Okay.
No. And when you look at state, when you look at the state curriculum, what's been approved in national standards, those state and national standards, they do them, a lot of them are group grades in our health. They're like, okay, in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you should be teaching this, but it doesn't tell you 3rd grade, 4th grade, or 5th grade. There's some flexibility to still follow those, but we want to look at our individual situation in this community.
But again, that hasn't been decided yet, that's
No,
something.
none of none of that's been decided, that's gonna go through the process. That's just some of the discussions we had when we were evaluating our curriculum and thinking, we think we have some work with this research that we now have and have been looking at. We think we have some work to do in some areas.
The question there is, when you're seeing the changes in the age of puberty, is that across the board of the country, or is that
Yes.
more in pockets? You'll see pockets of venereal disease.
Yeah, but the
So I guess the question
puberty
is-
thing, there's a number of, like, our food sources and things like that are having an impact. There's a lot of different things that we put in our bodies that we used to not. I mean,
And so, yeah.
so that is one of the things that they believe is change that. a
So
little
farm
bit.
to
That's one
table
of the
may not
impacts.
be the panacea.
Depends on what
Farm
farm.
to table would be, it's canning with preservatives that.
And then the other part is that
Very good.
every individual's different. I mean, I teach freshmen at the high school and I have kids that are, they're full adults, looking. And then I have others that look like they're in 5th grade, so.
I think it's interesting to note that if you're looking at the Journal of Pediatrics right now, the study shows that the US has one of the youngest puberty rates at 8.8 years versus Africa where it starts at 10.
That is interesting.
And Europe is actually higher than us, a full point.
Mr. McGee, I know we don't usually ask this many questions at the
I'm-
sex
I'm
ed
good.
every year, but that just is a testament to how interesting this is. I just wanted to say in closing, for me anyway, I really appreciate y'all putting some effort into collecting data and evaluating. So kudos to the advisory board.
We have a great board.
For, thinking in that manner.
Yeah, I want to thank you too. I know you have some really good professionals on that board. You have doctors, you have clergy, you have parents, you have some really good reproductive health professionals. And so comments.
Yeah, half the board is,
Useful information
has to be parents,
notwithstanding,
by the way,
thank you.
too. So we just have a well-rounded group and everyone brings something to the table. It's interesting discussions we have and presentations, yeah.
Other questions? All right, so at this time, the board would like to invite comments from the public. Is there anyone that would like to provide public comment specific to the sex ed curriculum? Yep.
Bill Wiesner, Traverse City. And the article that I passed out to the board members and Dr. Wagner and the secretary is entitled "Stop Destroying Our Children. Texas Mama Wakes Up America to the Truth About Sex Ed." I encourage you all to read all that too. And as far as the sex ed board, I knew someone, Robin Huffman was on this board 15 years ago or so, and she said like 10% agreed with her to promote abstinence. I know you talk abstinence, but true abstinence program goes into much more depth. And this program has, according to the one handout I got that's on one of your articles, 50 hours of education for K through 12, each grade. Okay, how much do they talk about this? And here's some of her concerns. Oh, by the way, Commissioner Lou Moore talked about celebrating diversity. That's a code for LGBTQ, promoting that. Everyone, different cultures, different races, everyone agrees, that's just people. But celebrating diversity is promoting the homosexual issue. And okay, I'll just go on with hers. She says, a former sex educator and school nurse, she used to do this. Warner speaks authoritatively about the sex education industry. In the late 1990s, she was employed as a sexually transmitted disease clinic in Michigan, where she tested and treated this. I don't know what to pick here. I've got a minute left. She says how we got here. And Kinsey, somebody mentioned the data. The data, that's what we look at, the data. Well, the data is based on Kinsey. Read about Kinsey. Go to the TC Family website, read it there. Read about it on Audrey Werner. She's the one that wrote this article. It was in the New American, and she's been through it. When you make kids comfortable, and I'm not sure, this is probably not your intent, but kids are normally, they don't want to be together. That's why they separated back when I was in school. And when you join it together, first they're uncomfortable, but then she was taught to make the kids comfortable with all these words and, and these behaviors, and to treat them as normal. So I urge you to read this article, and Audrey Werner with these. Check out her website. She's got a lot more. Thank you.
Is there any additional public comment on sexual education? Hearing none, the public comment or public hearing is hereby closed. And the second public hearing will be held on August 12th, 2024, at the Board of Education meeting in this room. Moving on to discussion items. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
For the work.
Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you.
McGee.
Discussion items, moving on to discussion items, school safety update, referring to Dr. Van Wagner.
Okay, for a school safety update, wanted to let you know that we did complete our reenactment it's our second one that we've done of a reunification. If we have some type of emergency, this example was a tornado. If we had something happen in a building, what do we do as far as an administrative team? How do we work about reunification for getting the kids from that site to a site where their parents can pick them up? Working with law enforcement. So on Thursday, June 13th, we held that at West Senior High School. The event involved TCAPS administrators, student volunteers, first responders from various agencies. We also had some other school districts attend to want to see what that looked like in the region. The hands-on professional development opportunity allowed participants to refine their skills and protocols, ensuring the continuation of safe and a secure district. The reunification of students with their parents or guardians during a crisis is a crucial aspect of our emergency response plan. TCAPS has implemented the standard reunification method, SRM, as a structured approach designed to ensure the safety and efficiency of this process. The method equips school and district safety teams with tested strategies for planning, practicing, and implementing a successful reunification. So, really good event, learned a lot, we do every time that we do these, and I'm gonna continue to, Patrick and Ginger really coordinated this, did a great job. And we'll continue to look at all these things that we can do to prepare ourselves, hoping we never have to use them, but to be vigilant to have best practice and practice across our districts. That's what I have for you.
Any questions?
What do we do when there's a tornado? Do we send the kids obviously to windowless areas or?
We do, they practice those. We are required by the state to do tornado drill, fire drill, stand in place drill, in those elements.
Airplane crash.
Yep. Yeah, so, which oddly enough, right by Central, we almost had a couple years ago. There are those, but the problem is once, if trees are down, power, you don't want everybody coming to the site. How do we get buses in? Where do we take them and let media and parents know through our notification systems where to be? What happens if, our notification system's down? How do we go from there? Those are all things we're grappling with all these things. And and we practice a tornado, it could be any number of emergency situations. But, so we do practice that specific incident, but then it's a situation, okay, we need to move all the kids from that site to another site and have the parents pick them up at that site. How do we do that?
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Van Wagner, I just wanted to ask, is there a schedule for every building to do these reunification drills so that all staff?
They don't do the reunification drill, they have to do their in-building drill by law from that. So this was a district-wide practice one, we had all of our principals, everybody be a part of this one.
So all staff have been trained on this now?
Correct.
Okay,
But we
great.
practiced it as it was one building for them to learn all those things, because we can't possibly do all of them, but we did have our entire administrative team be a part of that.
Okay, good to know, our whole district's had this
Yep.
training twice.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to the next discussion item, Bertha Voss property update, referring to Dr. Van Wagner.
Okay, so I don't have a lot for you, but I have for you, it was really late today, but we did send that to you literally minutes after I did get it. So we did get correspondence from the Acme Township neighbors that I talked about last time. They have some basic thoughts together, I think, of what they'd like to do, but they have asked for some more time from the board. So at this point, I'm looking for some direction from my standpoint. I'm good with giving a little more time, and not rush, but, this is a conversation that we've had before for you all, and so I just really need some direction, on where to go. Do you want me to have some correspondence more with them? Do you want me to go back to either of the two previous proposals that the board had? I just need to know where you guys wanna go.
I don't want it to drag on indefinitely, but I also have, I know this has been a theme that's come up a few times with a couple of different groups. 3 times, I think now, with trying to convert to this use, so there's obviously a strong will to do that, and it's a case of whether it can be done, so I think time is running out, but I don't know what other board members feel.
Yeah, I read the letter and appreciate, the time and the energy already spent with this group. I really do. Unfortunately, I guess, why didn't this group come together a couple years ago when we knew that Eastern Elementary was being relocated back to their building and that there wasn't gonna be a use for the building? So it's just, frustrating, because I think what they're asking for is gonna take more than another 30 days. I mean, they're talking about millages and levies to try to fund. And, if that's what we're waiting on, it's hard, especially knowing there's another gentleman that wants to preserve it as open space, that I don't know if he's still interested.
Don't know either. Have not had any correspondence with him since.
Personally, I would love to see if he's still interested and his offer still stands. I would personally like to explore that. I don't know that I think that this group is gonna have the answers that they need in another 30 days. I think it will continue, and unfortunately, you need a lot of time to put together a plan that has to do with a millage and taxes and donations and grants. Those things don't just happen overnight, so I'm nervous about.
I think there's no way they're getting, I mean, at best, they're coming back in 30 days with a firm plan.
request for further.
Well, at least a firmer plan,
Yeah.
with some of it dialed in, but.
One thing I was wondering, I don't know if any of you know this, but if they were to get, let's just say they were planning on trying to get on the November ballot, when does that have to be? August 13th. They would have to have it in the hopper to actually be put up for a vote by then. So if we did wait just that period, if it's not on that ballot, it's not happening. That is the one thing I thought of in all this that kind of does put a, definite, like you said, it's either really gonna happen or not, and if you're not on that ballot, at that point, you're waiting a whole nother,
Year.
before a general election, and I think personally that it's done at that point.
So on the August 13th, you have to have your
They actually would have to have it, yep,
Language.
in for the November ballot?
correct.
Okay, so that means even if it's on the, if they get it in by August.
So where the board would have the next decision is, let's say they do actually get it on the ballot, do we wanna wait that long? But if you wanted to go just, 30 more days here to that, you would know whether it's real or not. And then at that point, it's not, you could even, at that point, tell me, and make a decision, if it's not on the ballot, we're going to go and have some conversations with, previous.
And I don't doubt that they're not real and trying their hardest, and it's a great group of
Right.
people. I don't doubt any of that, and I don't mean to come across as, but we have literally been having this conversation
I know.
for years.
Right.
And, at what point do we do, what's, again, I always say to myself, what's best for kids, what's best for kids, what's best for kids? And so,
But I also wanna say that these are also taxpayers in our community, right? And I wanna, you've heard me say many times of, the hurt, whatever the decision, how it was made or whatever of closing that building, there was definitely some hurt. And I just wanna make sure that we don't do further damage to that. At the same point, I'm like you, getting to a point where this is like on an agenda every month for months and months and months, right? In my opinion, I think talking to these people that they really supported and wanted to have happen what Acme Township planned in the first place and fell through on. I think that they wanna push the issue in that element, and the only way that's probably practical is if they get it on the ballot for November. And so you're looking at, 30 days, a little bit right of that out. If it's on the ballot, I think the board goes, okay, maybe this is serious. It does the original intent of what, going way back to the RFP that we put out, would sit and do, which was a conversation. If they can't get all that act together and everybody to do that and get that on the ballot at that point, I think the board goes, okay, we have to move on.
And they're gonna know by August 12th, which is our next meeting.
Correct.
yeah.
I mean, they'll know whether they're on for the 13th.
We'll know, we'll know if it's on the ballot or not from the, the county clerk can tell us that, if that's the case. So they're either gonna get real serious by that time, or to me, I think the board moves on. But the board wants to move on now, that's your prerogative. But if you did want to give it that last chance, to me, that is a marker. That it's a huge marker to get it on a proposal, the language, everything on a ballot
Right.
for the November general election. Because it's not practical that you could do it even after that, because you don't have another general. You would have to pay for a special election.
It'd have to be a completely different plan at that
Correct.
point, which, again, they could come back with that if they.
But again, the practicality, especially of that, I think at that point you went, look, you kinda had your
They have
chance.
to be definitive at that point.
Yeah, you had your
Here's a
chance.
purchase agreement with this and that.
And you know where it is, but.
Well,
if-
and I mean, I think why I'm coming from the place I'm coming from is we heard loud and clear about the high density and
Yeah.
that they don't want that. But we have another option, which is that the other offer that was put out
We do.
that would keep it, and so in doing what the community.
But we don't know that for sure.
Yeah, we don't know that for
We
sure.
don't know that.
So I
you
guess,
know.
yeah, if we could find that out maybe before.
And I will have conversations if the board wants me to go back and have that as a ready backup plan and I almost kind of feel like maybe the board gives me direction of, John, if it's not like on that ballot, like going into our Monday meeting at that point, we need to explore going to our second option of Mr. Scribner that we've talked to. Again, now we do have the other church option. I think
Yes.
that the neighbors and others did also express kind of concerns about the activity and all that, but that is out there too.
My concern is also do what's best for the community. And community may be a little bit broader than just immediate neighbors. And I'm a person that really appreciates the need for daycare. And children need quality daycare. And it's lacking in this community. When there was a school there, I believe they probably had some high-density traffic and noise. That's the nature of kids.
Well, part of the problem was their daycare was only gonna be extended to their church members though, so it's not like a community daycare.
But you could
necessarily.
ask them, I would think.
But we don't have control.
We wouldn't
I
have
understand.
control.
See, I did
understand.
kind of propose some of that with deed restrictions, and that wasn't really perceptive. Now, I'm willing to go back and have more conversation, and that's direction you could give me. You could say, John, in the 30 days, know where exactly both of them are, and then we're gonna see if this on the ballot, and if not, we're going to make a decision based off feedback you have of which direction to go next month.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, in relation to our shortfall with the budget,
Yes.
where does this potential sale fall in?
It would be money that would actually help that cause.
Yeah.
It would be booked in. We did, by the way, we did close completely on Boardman. That did get booked in the last fiscal year. It happened, June 29th or the 28th. And so we did book that into the last fiscal year as we had in our budget proposal. And so this would, if it closed within our fiscal year, it would be money that would be able to be put in our general fund
Okay,
from that aspect.
maybe prevent
Yep.
possible
It could,
layoffs
it could.
in programming.
But, the question just for me at this point is, they did respond. Do you wanna give it to see if they put on a ballot or not? And if you do, also, I'll contact both and kinda say, hey, if they don't, are you still in or are you out? I'll know exactly where that stands for next month, and the board can say, let's go here, but.
And I would just feedback regarding the other offer, just thinking about daycare. So we know what the birth rates are over in that area, and there are not young growing families over there. We looked at that when we talked about other buildings, so that being one point. Second point is that the church that wanted to buy Bertha Boss has a huge congregation, and they have a ton of land where they're at, as well as buildings. And so it would seem to me they would have enough space to do what they wanted on their property. So I just don't wanna get in another situation like Old Mission Peninsula School, where we sell the building and it's turned into a charter school or a religious school. And I
But we
think
can't control that,
Right.
but legally in any way, can we do that?
I'm just
you know?
expressing my,
I
and
understand.
again, just talking
Yeah.
about what that community wanted.
Right.
They would rather have it be in that natural,
I think that, again, these folks, when I talk to, they wanna see it in that community center, fire department kind of thing from that aspect is what they are. I just wanna make sure, be careful legally what we can and can't do transactions based on or not. I think some of the things were, if they say that it's gonna be a community center and these kind of things, and they don't do that, we do have some clauses that are in a deed that reverts it back to us. I think those are some things with that, or if it didn't become a daycare center,
Right.
it would come back to us. And my initial impressions was they were not interested in any deed restrictions at all. Where I do think these individuals are willing to do that, and I think talking originally with Jason, that he originally was open to some deed restrictions to make sure it does that. I think that, that's an important piece for me that, that whatever the intended use is, that we have deed restrictions, so it doesn't end up being something 20 years down the road of, TCAPS shouldn't have sold it to him because it became this. When I talk about further damage to the community that we don't want, that's really important, I think, as I've talked to the board. And so we can work with Troon on making sure those things are in there, but the buyer has to be receptive to those things, and it kind of keeps them honest to intent from that way by having those deed restrictions. It's just a matter of if you want to give this to the ballot possibility or not. If you do, we can do that. I will also reach out to the other entities and just see where they're at with those deed restriction concepts and just confirm their interest in where they are. And then we could next month just go, here we are. We're going one direction or another direction.
I'm in support of it.
And just to clarify on that, I would support that, giving the time frame we know about that, but also I think from the board, we can have that discussion of, I think we are saying we're not gonna take the highest offer, which would be high density housing.
Right.
In regards to a community plan, our compromise to that is, I think whoever we end up selling it to will have a deed restriction, most likely.
I do too. That's my point.
It's not to say they can't be a school, it's to say
know,
that it's going to be something that the community is valuing with the open space, community center, fire hall.
Right. Because there's nothing saying that board doesn't change over and then all of a sudden become something that neighborhood never wanted, right? I mean, we've seen it before, and so there's some way I feel like our board, we have to protect ourselves for what we believe the best intent is for that community. And that's the only way legally that Troon has told me that there's an ability is to have some deed restrictions of changes of the building has to be made and such, true to the nature of what they're saying they're going to do with it. That is legal for us to do. And again, I think that 2 of the 3 entities have expressed willingness to do that. I'm not saying the third wouldn't. I will go back and have conversations from that aspect. But I think that when we got into this conversation long ago, we put a RFP out, and the real thought was we want to see what the intent is. Was really even more important than the money. Well, the money was also important. It's like we wanted to see these paired together in somebody's proposal on what that is. And that was the beauty of the Acme Township proposal that originally did those things. It's just financially and all those things didn't happen, all those elements they took out. But I think there's some neighbors that now regret that they weren't more active in the conversation with that. And now they're trying to come back and see if the community would support. One of the people on this list is a Acme Township board member. I think that I'm particularly interested, one more, to see if they can get on the ballot and how real these people in the community of Acme Township are about this. If they don't get the support to have it on the ballot, we know it's a few neighbors that really like to see something. If you get it a ballot language and all the signatures for all that within this time period, you've got a sense that there's a groundswell of enough people that have an interest in fulfilling probably the original goal that our board had an interest in trying to fulfill.
Right, and just 2 more things. One is, I'd prefer, if it could, not to knock the building down and put it in the landfill.
Right.
I mean, that was one of the nice things about Boardman.
And none of them have that idea. There was some conversations that we had with them about maybe just the gym and the cafeteria left, some of that, with that. But, I don't think that at any point, any of them have said, or have we said level the whole thing.
Totally, yeah. When they say park, I have a different vision of a park.
Yeah, but.
And the second thing, on going back to that daycare, when I lived in Nashville, we got into the Jewish Community Center. We are not Jewish. We were not members of the synagogue, anything like that, but we were allowed to come in as goys. And it was one of the best daycares in the city.
And that very
And
well,
so
but again, we just, how do we?
They will wanna keep their membership up
Yeah.
in supporting the
Yeah.
kids and the teachers.
And I'm happy to go back and try and learn more and have some of those conversations with it, but I do think that for the most part, the will of the board is to have some type of protections in there, that what they're saying it is, and we only have one legal way to do that, and that's through a deed restriction. Otherwise, it's just a promise that's verbal that can be broken in 30 seconds,
And I think they would understand the value of honesty and trust.
so.
So I just wanted to point out in this letter that you received just a little over an hour before our board meeting tonight, I'm seeing numerous references to grants, but there were potential grants and only one reference to the township millage, a potential township millage. So to me, it seemed like they were putting more stock in the possibility of grants and pooling their funds, and I'm happy to wait.
But that could happen quick, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish I had more time and people to
Yeah,
answer that
that's
question
fine.
for you, I don't.
I just wanted to point out, I mean, August 12th is our next board meeting, that's a Monday night. August 13th, if that's the deadline, it would be the next day. I mean, I personally am fine giving them, 45 days, and of course you can say, well, we don't meet twice a month, we meet every 2
Right.
months. I mean, if they're gonna go for, my point is though, if they are not going for a millage and they're going for grants and donations.
I just think that the board is probably past just wishing on grants, unfortunately. I think that, I think if they're serious about a community element and they're able to get ballot language, I think it's a lot more telling than, we've applied for some grants as maybe 6 individuals, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 12, I don't know. But if it's a ballot language thing, there's a lot more possible support. I mean,
That community meeting, how many people were there?
these people
30
that
or
are right there,
Not 30 or 50.
those people that are listed right there.
Yeah, I kept seeing things on neighborhood, whatever the little.
Yeah, now they did have, I think, a larger meeting before when Acme Township, the zoning. I think there was a group of 30 or 40, and Scott, you live in.
I do, but I heard that there was a large group that they even had to move the location, so.
And I've
but-
spoken to
there
more
might be
people
an
than just those.
It,
Yeah, I'm
it
sure.
seems to be,
Like-
it seems to be just a little, not widespread communicated yet. There was a group at the meeting, and as my work on the MEDC, which may be referenced to grant, they asked, there is a couple of very quick and easy grants that they can get. And then there's probably a couple of very, very attractive grants that they could get as well. The problem is it requires coordination with themselves, Acme Township, and the MEDC. So they have to be organized, Acme Township has to be willing, and the MEDC has to be willing to listen. So that's 3 challenges that is, I think we would know in a month, as well, but.
Well, just because you extend it a month doesn't mean you can't
No,
extend it further.
No, I mean, I think we have to start seeing some sort of.
it doesn't, I just think the board needs to see a serious next step.
You wanna see a step.
And if that's serious, and to me, that serious next step is a ballot language, but,
That would be either that or something.
Or a grant that has been
significant,
awarded,
yes.
or we've raised 50% of it already. Something like that they're able to come to the board with assurances of that through a community foundation or something like that. But I think you'll know if it's serious with that, but I think you'll also know next month whether it's not.
Yeah.
Good point.
And I kind of feel, but at the same point, I think I'm hearing some feedback also, John, go, get with Scott Hardy and let's go back and talk to the other 2 entities, make sure we understand if they're still interested, where they're at, and next month, we wanna kind of make a decision which one we're gonna go with.
Or at
Any
least
more
which,
from-
generally
Yeah.
which direction.
From the Catholic Church.
But there's not been any correspondence since the last time I talked to Scott with them,
Okay.
but again, I will engage him as well this week and find out if there's anything new. And that is directly next door.
Thank you.
And are we okay with giving, as a board, the strong indication that there likely will be deed restrictions?
Yes.
So that's, I think, just what.
I've felt that was a board, but I appreciate you saying that, cause it gives me a little bit more than just John thinking that.
That's what I mean, is like, I'm not gonna say it's absolutely gonna be required, but I don't see too many scenarios where
I don't either.
any of these groups,
I don't either.
it doesn't have a deed restriction.
I don't either.
Okay.
Okay, who wants to do this?
I just wanted to say one thing too, following up on a question trustee Bird had, or maybe it was a statement, but it would feel great to us as a board if we could purpose the proceeds from this sale towards something special for kids. I mean, I'm very happy with the outcome of Boardman.
Yep.
But, you know,
I know.
funding
I know.
the print shop move was not as fulfilling to us
No.
as something that would
know.
really directly benefit children.
And we can discuss, you know, we're gonna have a lot of those conversations, unfortunately. But, you know, what is it that we think's the best use of that dollar? I think we'll have a pretty deep conversation on, because I think there's gonna be unfortunately a lot of candidates of where that could go to do the best for kids.
Now, I do also remember on the Boardman building, when the overhead, the operating costs on that building was
40,000 a year.
40, no, wasn't that Bertha Voss? Was it
That was just
100,000?
Bertha Voss.
I think it was
Oh.
100,000.
Oh, for Boardman, yeah, right.
So
And a creaky elevator and
we are restoring $100,000 to the
But
general
then-
fund every year for indefinitely.
Perpetuity.
And what
Very
did they
true.
find out on Bertha Voss about the boiler and the roof? Did that?
Don't know, because Acme Township did that, and
Yeah.
I've never seen any result of their studies from that.
That would have been
We
interesting.
did let all of the prospective folks know that was done, and that they could request that. They could do it by FOIA, but they could ask as well of the township for the results from those studies.
The Grand Traverse Band also had inspections done
Yep.
that we
Yeah,
were
so there's
given.
quite a bit out there kind of known in that aspect of
Yeah,
where that
we
is,
saw
what
the
is needed.
results of that.
We, you know, but we didn't get the ones from that Acme Township had done.
Okay, any
Okay.
other questions on Bertha Voss? Moving on to the next discussion item, item C. It was listed as item A on the agenda, which I did not catch, neither did anyone. But moving on to item 10A, number 2, 18 credit diploma at TC High, deferring to Dr. Van Wagner.
Okay, so in our curriculum committee, we had some conversations about a lot of work that we've been doing on thinking about the students and the services we provide at TC High. So Jen Chowick is here with us. She's our new high school principal at TC High. 20-year vet in the building, so we're excited to have her. And our team, our curriculum instruction team really have set some time with Jen and the teachers and the staff at TC High to really talk about what do we want to see those services become? How can we maybe service more kids and some of the opportunities that are out there the kids are taking from other entities that we could be providing? But because of the way that they do it and the flexibility, they're choosing that versus us. So one of the conversations we've deeply had about is we, for our high school diploma, right now, all 3 of our high schools exceed the state requirement. So it's 22 credits currently that you have to have. And so we do have most of the cyber schools across the state are at 18. We have 2 competitors, one right here within our own district and a neighboring district that are running virtual and alternative ed type programs at 18 credits. And one of the things that I think in our conversations we've had is we didn't want it to be about just lowering the standard, but creating a little bit of a different standard with 18 formal credits, but some other opportunities with job shadowing and internships and extra things that we know these students can do that can make them employable, life skills, these different things that we know oftentimes they need supports on. And so we had the chance to present this to our curriculum committee. And so I've asked Heidi and Jen to do a little bit shorter snippet from what was in curriculum committee to give you an idea of some of the things we're thinking. This is not all gonna be implemented at once. It's gonna take some time to build, but it's all about creating more opportunities for kids for lifelong learning and skills and getting more kids across the line for graduation. So I'm gonna pass it off to Heidi and Jen and let them talk a little bit more about that.
Excellent. I had the pleasure of working with Jen all the way through this project and the staff at TC High. It's been a great process. We actually started back in February, and we had 4 really visioning sessions to dig down into what is our current state at TC High, dig into what the students are asking for, as well as what we know to be best practice in alternative education and virtual or digital learning. And so we started in February, and it really began with identifying our current state. Second session, we really spent time with visioning and priorities and best practices. The third session was really on developing that vision a little bit more robustly, and then identifying resources. And probably one of the most important things you'll hear Jen talk about later is the site visits that we were able to do either in person to existing alternative schools and virtual programming, and some virtual visits as well with programs that had been established. And then the last meeting was really the discussion with the entire staff about here's the findings that we really came up and developed together and what we hope to be our next steps moving on. And then the conversation about the development of the Compass Learning Center that really would house the virtual programming and give opportunities to TC High students as well as servicing those virtual students. And logistics. The other thing you'll see on that list is that summer school Acellus program that we have for actually all our secondary students in TCAPS this year. So you'll hear a little bit more about that programming and how that's going. Very exciting, different program than we have used in the past. You've probably heard a lot about Edgenuity for programming, and the Acellus, you'll hear a little bit more about the rave reviews we're getting, which is exciting to us because when you try, new things and based on feedback, you hope they work, but we are seeing some great success. So we took the team through a formal process, which, in industry, you'd use a SWOT analysis and identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And these are the questions we actually asked to staff and talked about some internal factors that we had that come into play and external as well. And then we took as a team and compiled all that information to look at, like, what do we actually see as strengths? And you'll notice some common themes there. If you can see it, right, it's a little small. But some common themes within that, and those were connecting with students is number one strength, one of the strengths that we saw throughout the questions with the staff. And looking at, areas of improvement had to do with flexibility and developing additional options for students and making sure we're giving them opportunities and work-based learning and outside the school to actually help them launch when they leave Traverse City High School. Lots of different opportunities of support in creating more community integration for students was highlighted, and strategic location for a hub. So how are we meeting all the needs of our students at TC High? And what could a hub look like? In that we thought that might be an opportunity for TC High to look like. And then we looked at also the threat areas, which there's a lot of things to consider when you're looking at TC High programming. You have students from really all over our region, sometimes attending TC High. So they talked, one of their focuses was on the emotional support dog that was actually leaving when Lance leaves, and that's one of their priorities and seemed to be a threat that they wanted to make sure they had a plan for, so that's on the list. You'll probably hear Jen talk about.
First questions that everyone asked when Lance was.
They were all saying goodbye to her.
I know.
Good night.
Yep, and they talked very much about the staff and really the utilization of staff and how they might rethink that better about how we're using staff and making sure we're staffed appropriately. From that point on, when we took that information, we ran it through best practices for alternative education, and they relate to 5 domains. The first is governance and practices and policies. The second is climate and culture. The third is instruction and effective practices. The fourth is external factors, and the fifth are resources. And as we went through the process, there were several things that came up as highlights for us again. Again, we saw in the first domain one of the things that we know we need to tackle is that entrance and exit for Traverse City High School students. What does it look like coming from Central or West going to TC High? And if students if their goal is to go back to the traditional high schools, how are we able to provide that for them? You'll see why the credit thing comes into play a little bit later on. The need for flexibility for sure in practices, in programming. You'll hear more about that, and just the options for flexibility, not only in in-person learning, but also that option for that virtual learning. So instead of being just an in-person student in TC High, what are our options for that virtual learning? And a lot of the conversations were around when we've done virtual learning in the past and when we were in COVID, we didn't have that in-person support. You'll see later on when you hear the conversation about the Compass Learning Center that we've addressed that in a way that there's an adult, a supportive adult in the room with students. The climate and culture, some highlights for climate and culture really had to do with structures of classes. Some new learning that we had in visiting other schools were on, instead of having 6 classes at a time for virtual, you would have 1 class at a time, and you complete 25% of one single class within a certain number of weeks. So instead of focusing on multiple classes, they really narrow the scope. In instructional and effective practices, again, those comments about that structure as well as work-based learning and community involvement were highlighted over and over again. And in external factors, a highlight was making sure we're building strong relationships with our community partners. They're doing it right now through the Check and Connect program, which Jen will talk a little bit about later on. And then some external factors that we thought we might need to address are just that universal screener. So when students come to TC High, do we know exactly where they're at academically and non-academically? And are they placed in the correct classes? And are we giving them the support that they need? And the last area to really define and build highly effective alternative schools is that resources. And how are we defining resources? Some relate to flexibility in staffing. We talked a little bit about the opportunity between having the Compass Learning Center housed at TC High, the opportunity to use some staff and flexibility that way perhaps, and opportunities that would continue with dual enrollment for students and community-based opportunities. And simply the opportunity to have a facility that's large enough to house not only your online and virtual students to come in for support, but also your students that are taking classes, maybe 1 or 2 classes from TC High. And then I'm gonna turn it over to Jen, and she's gonna talk about some of the visits that we did.
So with all of that Heidi was talking about, we have been talking about that for staff for quite some time, like what else can we do? What else can we do? So we had a lot of ideas going into this process, but I think we needed to venture outside of northern Michigan where we do tend to be the only larger in-person alternative ed programming going on and really get some hands-on experience and see what other places are doing. So in person, Heidi was able to go down to Berrien Springs Alternative and Berrien Springs Online. And then we were able to go down to Grand Haven Alternative where they actually house in an old elementary school building in person and virtual. So that was good to see what works, what may not work. And then we went to 2 Link Learning locations in Grand Rapids, and those are all virtual settings, just to see what we could pull from those different areas. Then throughout the year, virtually, we did not do this as a staff, but we did it as a summer school program staff, the Acellus vendor demo. And the Acellus vendor demo was to look at that online platform to see if that would work for us. We also did a virtual throughout the year. We set up times with our staff to meet with these different places because we were just trying to say, what else can we do? So we met with Dundee Alternative Academy and Online Learning. Again, they also do in-person and online and did use Acellus. We met with Sault Ste. Marie Alternative Academy. We met with Minnesota, believe it or not. That's where Check and Connect originated from. And so we wanted to see how their alternative program was using Check and Connect as another resource and wraparound service for their students. We had SOS Learning Lab come in and meet with us, and they also use Acellus and are located in Traverse City. And then we are also working with Youth Work and trying to have a program where students will be able to participate in youth work and be able to do online or in-person learning. So they'll actually go out into the field and work with the community. So with all of this, we started to try to put some steps in place to start moving forward. And one of the things that we worked with the Summer Academy program to have Acellus be the platform. And it ended up, we just got off the phone with with Tim Riemann, who is the principal?
Yep.
Okay, principal who's running the Summer Academy program. And everybody is using Acellus there. I believe there was about 100 students, he said, from the whole district. And we had ended up with, I just looked at it, about 20 students from Traverse City High School that were able to take advantage of the Summer Academy program, and they're being very successful. We eliminated some barriers for our TC High students to participate in the Summer Academy program, and the staff was amazing to allow us to work with them and make that opportunity happen. And I was able to check in with them this summer in the second week, and they were doing great. And they actually, I have some students that had tried a couple Edgenuity classes and Acellus, and they were raving about Acellus and that they really liked it. It was working better for them. And these kids took one course at a time instead of being loaded up with their classes, and that also seemed to be working well for them.
One thing to note on the Acellus courses is that it's not one track. You get a choice between basically a credit recovery track, a middle of the road track, and if you have an accelerated student that you really want to push or you can see needs that push, you can actually set them on that track, which is very different than any other program that we've seen. So in our conversations with Tim this afternoon, he was saying depending on subject area, depends on if we think middle of the road is a good track. Sometimes that's actually even too high level in some cases. But being able to have 100 students use the Acellus program this summer in all those subject areas has really given us, I can't wait to actually pull all the data back together and take a look at number of credits earned, how many credits were recovered overall for students, and like how many students were off track and now came back on track because of it. So I'm very interested to see all those pieces and understand a little bit more about what track did most of the students stay on using that program. So very excited and encouraged by what Tim had to say. The other thing to note is in the beginning, we are of course, we're a little concerned about like opting completely out of Edgenuity. And so we gave the students and the teachers the option to use Edgenuity or Acellus. And I think some started with Edgenuity in the beginning, and then they have since switched to Acellus. It's seamless programming for online for them to navigate, as well as it's more gamified, I think, as far as when students are going in and out and using the program by itself. So very encouraged by what we have seen so far, but more excited to see how that actually produced outcomes for students and credit recovery and additional credits.
And one thing I really like about that program, especially for our students where they can come to us with big gaps in their academic careers, is that when they're working through a class, it'll immediately note if they are lacking that skill, take them back to that lesson, and they can't go on until they get that concept down. So that immediate remediation is great for our students, all students, but especially our students. And a couple of our students that are in that summer program were seniors that needed a credit or two, and they were able to finish.
Especially for things like math.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you know, the key thing is with this that's so important is we have teachers there with them.
Yeah.
So if a kid struggles isn't understanding, they're not on their own or waiting for a teacher in 3 days to email them back. And that's really critical to the summer, and what we're our plan moving forward is to have that same kind of support of, we know that teachers matter still.
Calm down
Right.
your frustration.
And exactly, and have that, and okay, if we need to come over here and show it on paper, we can do that. And then they can go back and do that lesson. I think that's a really key aspect of it.
I visited in that first week, and those teachers, I was trying to chat with them about how it was going, but they were so busy running around helping the students. I had to come back the next week to make sure that the students were getting taken care of, even though they were working on the online program.
Well, and one thing we hear a lot, through just, whatever, but that Ingenuity is difficult for parents to navigate and students. Even through COVID, and even some of our kids that have re-entry into school or whatever, it's not very user friendly. So it's nice to have another program that you're piloting and looking at and getting that firsthand feedback, I think, and that it's more user friendly.
One other option they have, which was a great feature, is that it also will pre-test a student before they actually go into a class. So if we think about some of our conversations, you heard me talk earlier about entry and exit, right? So entry into TC High, how do we know where students are coming at in their ability level? That actually gives us an option to pre-test students and see kind of where they are at before we actually do placement. And that placement actually could be in person, or it could be if they take the class at the Compass Learning Center. So,
How many years are we locked into Edgenuity with a contract?
we are not locked into Edgenuity.
Are we renewing it annually?
Yes,
It's
it's an
by
annual
seat.
renewal.
Yeah, by seat that we
So
pay.
we already purchased it for
No,
No,
for 24,
No.
25?
no.
Okay.
No.
So if this is being used as a pilot, do you have sufficient information to decide if you wanna just go with the Celis?
that's what I have to get.
Not yet.
That's
Not yet.
Not yet, so that's,
Looking for some cost savings here.
yes.
To be honest, I don't know there's going to be, I don't know it's a cheaper
Maybe the
program,
exchange.
to be honest with you in
Right, but
that,
to not,
you know.
to not continue with two,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, we definitely, you buy them both by seats. And so, you literally could go with 2, 3, 4, because we probably still will. Our high schools often for full comprehensive, sometimes Michigan Virtual is the only one that offers certain things.
Quite a few
Like
classes.
a
we use
Japanese
Michigan
3,
Virtual.
some of the things in our deal. And so we will still have to rely on a couple of vendors, and it's just a matter of what we feel the most quality from that aspect. And so Michigan Virtual, we know in the district's still gonna be there. The question is does this fully fulfill? Would there be some things that are not offered we'd still have to use Ingenuity for? But you buy it by one kid, one seat. You don't buy it by, okay, here's 100 seats and it's good for the year. We can literally buy one seat and then, okay, we need a second, we need a third, a month later, we need a fourth. We have the ability, that full
tuition.
flexibility to do that.
Yes,
You pay an individual tuition.
Correct.
yep,
That's
and
exactly
Acellus
the
also has the option of, so when a student enrolls, like you might have a student that only takes a semester, and there's still that part of that license left, you can enroll a new student in there. So you're not stuck paying for a full license for the year on a student, those can flex.
That's different.
I guess for efficiency wise, you'd want the teachers to know all the different online platforms, so the fewer you have, the better, so
No doubt.
you're not.
No.
They've used Ingenuity, so, like I said, if we still have a few that we need to from that aspect, Michigan Virtual is probably the one that is more the kid that's advanced, and it's something we don't offer often. It's not for your kid that generally takes like Algebra 1, it's your kid that's
Sometimes
taking.
AP language classes.
Right, even ASL, if we don't have an ASL section they can take, you can even do ASL through Michigan Virtual. They do offer some of these unique ones that are taught by Michigan teachers in Michigan, that Michigan Virtual has. But Michigan Virtual also has, I think, some tougher things. I think sometimes the reading level's a little harder. I think there are some elements, and so having a couple of these platforms, but again, to your point, not too many, is important. So we'll see where this lands.
And usually a question comes up if they're NCAA certified, and they are, Acellus is, so.
So the whole point of all of our work on this was to really see how we can increase opportunities for our students. We feel like we can't always reach every single student, so we need more opportunities for them to be able to graduate and be connected to the community afterwards. And so the virtual program gives us a lot of flexibility in the Compass Learning Center. And the other thing that would give us a lot of flexibility and assist a lot of our students would be the 18 credit diploma. Again, we've always offered 22, just like West and Central. The state requires 18. And the 4 that are missing there, if you're kind of like, well, what are those 4? Those are electives. And so the kids they can get the 18 or they can still go to 22 if needed. What this really does allow kids that just need to get their diploma, and it allows us to really free up some time for those students to be able to do dual enrollment, do some work experience, have job coaching, those community connections that our students so desperately need. And that's what we really want to work on when we have that flexibility. So the credits you can see, these are just what are Michigan Merit Curriculum credits with the core classes that are there.
And, some of the conversations you hear from students are, they were short, they needed to take an art credit, right? So they failed art 2 times and are taking art again. Is that really where we want a kid to be?
Or for instance, in that situation, can we have them do a program at the Crooked Arts Center.
Exactly.
You know, and be able to do that for a semester, 3 days a week for 2 hours a day, and be able to say, okay, you fulfilled what you need from a standpoint that way. It's not, you know, from a pupil accounting standpoint, it's not that. From, you know, a true credit that we would have in 4 walls, it's not that. But it allows the staff that flexibility to create almost independent study-like opportunities for kids to get those same experiences, but without having it be a formal deterrent from them getting a diploma.
So what would be the parameters around, like, they're getting a work-based experience or community-based experience to get credits? Like, is that just for?
They wouldn't get credit, to be clear, for that.
Okay. Work-based
They're
learning?
getting the 18 credits,
Uh-huh.
and then the rest is all experiences. I don't wanna confuse the
You're saying above and
language.
beyond, so we're not compromising
waiving.
the 4 credits in ELA
Correct.
and math.
Correct.
None of those, yep.
Those are required by state law that we have to have them have
Yeah.
those in our traditional format.
So when you talk about a profession or a personal curriculum, can you give me an example of what you're thinking there?
Yeah, so a personal curriculum allows more flexibility. For example, if a student was taking a CTE program at the Career Tech Center, they can sub in that CTE credit for world language requirements, right? For our Simultech, this is totally different, but for our Simultech students, they are taking additional math classes typically and science classes. So a lot of times they're able to opt out of a different class. They actually even have a personal curriculum. Personal curriculums are used prevalently all over Michigan.
It's
at
a
this
state
point.
law, so you know, that's, it's actual, a thing created by the state.
Yeah.
Called a personal curriculum, which allows some flexibility for kids to opt out of certain things, but only if a team reviews that from the school and the school selects that it's in the best interest of the student.
So, for example, if a kid is totally freaked out with math, can they opt out?
No, the
or-
only thing they can opt out is a second semester of Algebra 2. Is where there is flexibility there, that a staff can determine if there's something better in that kid to do than that second semester of
Something
Algebra.
along that line.
Right. But that is the only flexibility in math with a state personal curriculum.
Science?
you
Kid hates
have to have
biology, doesn't wanna get their
You have
hands
to have the
dirty.
4
Yeah, 3
credit,
credits.
3 credits, yeah.
Yeah, in ELA, 4 credits for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah, the personal curriculum, you know, where the personal curriculum can get a little bit more flexible is with students that have IEPs. Then state law, IDEA, federal IDEA law can trump state law under a personal curriculum.
And you also have some CTE programs that will actually include their ELA credit within,
math even.
embedded in the program, and even math. And so there's flexibility around some of those, but they still have to get to that Algebra 2.
Yes.
So they get a fundamental.
Yes.
Correct.
Correct, yep.
So I just have a big picture question, which is if this is a regulatory option, why hasn't TCAPS adopted this in the past? There must be some pros and cons.
I think, so I'll give you, and Jen, feel free to reach in. I think the one thing that we don't want is anybody to feel that a TC High diploma is not as worth as much as a TC West or a TC Central. I think that's why it's really important that we have these other things that kids do. It's just different, you know, not the same, different, not less. You know, I think that's really important to all of us, that we don't, you know, even to the point again where a kid can do the 22 credits. But if there's flexibility needed, how can we just do some experiences in a different way for electives than a traditional way? At our comprehensive high schools, it's pretty much that traditional way.
And I would say that the most of our kids to come in, they're not lacking electives.
Yep.
There's those few kids that might need a couple here or there, and electives can be good for their schedule as well. But they really are missing the core 18 anyway.
You know, we have that special thing with different, what is it, institutes, you can be in the fine arts or.
Our academic communities,
Can you do something like that?
we could.
But make it in work study.
And we
or-
could, and I think that's where we're visioning to go competency based. It's gonna take a while for us to get there. You know, we know that the first step is this, and then start building out those, I call them extended learning opportunities.
Well, that's fancy.
You know, it is, but it's things that don't happen with within the 4 walls. There's still a teacher that is kind of maybe more of a facilitator of learning in that element,
Like a
but
coach.
Yep, and so I think that, you know, the one thing is that I think we finally were able to have some time to sit down with the staff, and it was really important for me, to the point where I didn't even go to any of the sessions purposefully, because I wanted to be the staff thought buy-in to it versus being a top-down approach from my office. And so I think that we finally got around to that point where that was there. We actually have some resources and a grant that has allowed us to start this summer that we haven't had. We're trying to figure out, as well as how can we service maybe some kids that have been expelled. There's some rules that are there that we can't have them mixed with the general population we're trying to solve, as well as even some tutoring opportunities that are in this grant that we're trying to see that may be available to all TCAPS secondary kids. So we're trying to see how we can build those things in there, knowing we've had all these things finally kind of come to a head, and how can we try and use these grant dollars that we have 1 year and 1 year only to try and jumpstart some of these ideas and that plan for that revitalization and expansion of opportunity at TC High.
And opportunity to listen to the kids and the staff, learning from the other places that we visited, learning from SOS Learning Labs. You know, they know why the kids are choosing them, you know, why they're choosing them over something else. And just really taking some time to listen and learn from people that are doing a really good job already. And how will it work for our community? Because it's not the same in every community.
Right.
And I would say that our staff is pretty veteran staffed. I mean, like I said, I've been there 20 years and quite a few of my colleagues have been as well. And so we've been really, really wanting to do more, but it was hard because we were stretched so thin already. So it was great to have this opportunity to have our voices heard, have some resources put behind us, because ultimately we want to serve these kids and they're part of our community. And so we were really happy that we were able to have this process happen.
So is this like a TC High specific, or is there gonna be other students that come in
That don't have
with
to come.
challenges that say?
So one of the things that, and this is gonna be tricky, but we've done, is that we really are treating it as two separate schools under one roof.
Yeah.
You will have Compass Learning Center out of what's now the Maverick Center, and then you will have TC High. To a point where we're still working through the logistics, but I'm an advocate that kids, even to go to one or the other, literally have to go out the doors and go into the other one, so that we can keep that consistent. So this is probably a much stronger for our kids that have been 100% virtual, that maybe have been at West or Central. They're going to have teacher support every day that we don't have, at those buildings currently. The Compass Learning Center will have that.
Okay.
You will probably not have the kid that's taking the one-off Japanese 4. They're gonna probably stay at our traditional schools. But the kids that are virtual all that way, and the other thing that we're almost there, that we haven't totally finalized, but we're also thinking about ninth graders be able to do this virtual program at TC High, that we've not had ninth graders at all, kind of anything for a kid that has dropped out or whatever at the ninth grade level. Jen, rightfully so, I think in our team are very nervous about, sometimes we get 19 and 20-year-old kids that are 5th or 6th year with a freshman, and that age difference, I think, especially for right now, it's just a lot to chew right away. And so, but I think we've had the conversation about ninth graders in the Compass Learning Center as a possibility, and finally an option that we haven't had for some ninth graders as well. So really think of it, it'll still be one school code and a shared staff, but it's almost like two separate schools, like when they went to Grand Haven, under one roof.
I liked
There's-
what you said, oh, sorry, go ahead.
There's no busing for these kids?
There is.
There is, okay,
Yep,
that's
it's our
good.
regular TCI busing that we run,
Okay, that's
with
good.
that. So that would be an option, and those kids are close to the career center as well.
And then the dog.
Not there
Working
yet.
on it. We have paperwork in, we're working on it.
Not there yet.
We'll get there.
We have
Not there
another
yet.
staff member that might be able,
Yeah.
he's working on
I
it.
could see that.
We all
Josie,
just.
question?
Oh, I just was gonna say, I liked what you said at the curriculum committee meeting about the justification for keeping ninth graders in the traditional high schools, because it does give them the exposure
Oh,
to
yeah.
the arts and the global academic community and the STEM academic
Yeah.
community. And then if none of that appeals to them, then they can move to
We've
TC
always
High.
been a big believer in that, because that's typically what's best for that student, is we wanna make sure they have that exposure to all those other opportunities that we don't offer quite, you know, we don't have art or sports or we do have art, but the advanced art programs. So that is a really important piece, as well as the maturity level and making sure that they know this is the right choice for them. I think those things are really important for that student.
Yeah, if you want.
So we came up with kind of some overarching ideas, and Dr. Van Wagner talked about these already, about Traverse City High really having two kind of programs in one and sharing the staff. What I think is good about both of these is that they allow the flexibility for our students. Some may be in person and then going to Compass Learning Center for a few classes. Some of our kids may have jobs or kids of their own that they need to work around those schedules. But the big piece here that I didn't want to lose sight of in all of this is that we have in-person help and those wraparound services. Our backbone has always been the relationships we build with these kids in order to make them successful. So if it is going to be virtual, it's housed at our school so that we have a full-time social worker. We have our food pantry, we have Indigenous ed there. So we have all of those wraparound services and create those systems in place to help those students. So you can read through, but we've been talking about these kind of differences here. We're Traverse City High School, both would have the 18 credit diploma, work-based learning experience would be offered at both. We are looking at doing some CTE classes within our school. We have a teacher that is certified in that, instead of having to go over to career tech. Doing some more community-based learning. Heidi and I have been working really hard on getting some training sessions mapped out for the school year for our staff. And so this is what we kind of came up with.
The only thing to add is that the 18 credit diploma, in order to be considered for it, you would have to be at TC High for a full semester.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanna make sure that was out there. That does a couple things, you know, we don't want students all of a sudden transferring over just to be done at 18 credits, right? Cause if that rich experience of the 22 credits can be very important to a kid. So that was one of the requirements that we did have with the 18 credit diploma at TC High.
What are Friday Maverick days?
Me explain your Maverick days? Okay.
Well, they're not really.
What are Friday Maverick days?
Under flexibility.
Second bullet.
So Friday Maverick days, in the past, we have a reduced schedule. We have a reduced number of days and hours that the alternative school is able to operate under. Next year, we added additional days, but the resounding thing we heard from staff was that interested in project-based learning and competency-based education, but not without support. And so on those Fridays that work is going to occur, not only can students come in and get support in the Compass Learning Center, but our staff also will be trained using project-based learning, competency developing, and having time to actually put into the development. So not a sit and get and done in one day, but a sit and get one Friday, implementation the second Friday. And so how are they actually tying those pieces together to get to a full full competency-based education, where students, we can look at what they have currently for competencies, pick the ones they're still lacking, reinforce, get them those competencies that they need before they can move on to the next credit. Because credits can come, and you'll hear this more from the state of Michigan, in many different forms and ways. So that's what Maverick Fridays are for. They're for kids and actually for training for staff.
Thank you.
I really love the one course at a time idea. I know one of my own kids was out for a semester or two for health reasons. And it was really hard to do the online Edgenuity.
6 classes.
It's
Yeah.
a lot of, it's more work.
And you still do 6, but you just do them sequentially versus all at once.
It's
One teacher,
it's more
one.
work.
Yep.
Yeah, and so when they switched to the one course at a time, they had much more
Let you
success.
focus.
Yep.
Yeah.
What, I guess,
So we do need a motion of approval for the diploma.
I move that we approve the 18-hour curriculum for TC High.
Second.
Oh, I didn't
No,
even read
let's
it.
reread that.
I
Actually,
move-
hold on a second.
No, no.
So I think I need you to revoke the motion.
yeah, as I say, if you can
Motion.
withdraw your motion.
Yep.
And then I move that the Board of Education approves the 18-hour diploma option for Traverse City High School students as presented.
Second.
America.
Any further discussion? Stacy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Pack,
Yes.
trustee Moon
Yes.
trustee Ballinger,
Yes.
trustee Bird,
Yes.
trustee Raymond,
Yes.
and trustee Newman Bale.
Yes, motion carries. And thank you for all your work, and I'm definitely excited about the program and opportunities for the students.
Thanks for coming in, Jen.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Her and her whole staff have been
They are
amazing, just amazing, so.
Well, we appreciate them.
Thank you.
Still light out.
Thanks to living in northern Michigan. Summer.
We like till 10, so.
Yeah, what do you think? One more hour.
We do, moving on to the next item, it's public comment number 2. We always do our second public comment before closed session, so those, typically when we come back from a closed session, it's pretty much wrapped up at that point. So at this point, we are at the public comment number 2. Stacey, is there public comment?
No.
All right, then we will move on to item number 12, which is, I've got it.
I have it here too.
Okay.
I have it here, somebody.
I got it, the wording too. Do you want anyone particular? I guess I can do it just to make sure it's copied. I move to enter into a closed session for the purpose of conducting a periodic personnel evaluation as allowed by the Open Meetings Act, PA 267 of 1976, Section 8(1)A. The closed session was requested in writing by the employee. Second. Is there any discussion? Stacy, please conduct a roll call vote.
Trustee Raymond,
Yes.
trustee Ballinger,
Yes.
trustee Bird,
Yes.
trustee Moon
Yes.
trustee Pack,
Yes.
and trustee Newman Bale.
Yes, motion carries. We are now in closed.
Curve, because Scott motioned it, so.
Technically, it would be.
Well, I always do you last.
Well, normally that would always be, except change. We do have a little bit of a meeting heavy schedule with a study session coming up. Thursday, August 1st at 4 p. No, that's not right, sorry. Monday, July 22nd, at 5 p.m. And again, this will be in this room. And that is it. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Move to adjourn the meeting.
Second. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Meeting adjourned.
One quick thing for you guys, we'll have